Ivy League Football Media Day. I'm Jack Ford. I'm delighted to be your host once again this year. I'm a former Yale player, and I have the great good fortune to also provide the color commentary for the ESPN's package of the 6 Ivy League football games that they send out over their linear networks this year once again. So we want to welcome all of you to joining us once again in our conversations with our coaches. Here's the format. And so we will have each of the coaches here with us. We're going to do it in alphabetical order. We'll have a conversation with coaches. We'll talk a little bit with both of the student athletes that they bring, and then we'll open it up for an opportunity for you members of the media to join in with some questions, some thoughts on coaches or players. As I said, we will go alphabetically here to make sure that there is no suggestion of any partisanship on the part of anybody here. A couple of things, a couple of notes for you. One is that there'll be a little bit of a different look to the Ivy League this year in the sense that we have 3 new coaches who will be patrolling the sidelines, and we'll have a chance to talk with each of them about those transitions and what it means for them in the programs. Coach John Poppy, who will be taking over at Columbia, Coach Dan Swanstrom at Cornell, and Coach Andrew Orrick at Harvard. It'll be we anticipate, fantastic season. I know that we had just a couple of days ago, we had a series of seminars with ESPN talking about the upcoming season, and comments were made yet again. We've heard this repeatedly after each season about how good the Ivy League football package has been, how exciting the games have been. If you think about it, for several years now, it went down to the very last game, including sometimes more than one team. We saw last year 3 teams emerging from that very last week of the season to share the Ivy title. So it's that quality parity that we have seen in the Ivy League that'll certainly continue this year. A couple of other notes for you when we're talking about the quality of the Ivy League. For the 5th year in a row, we've had an former Ivy League football player hoist the championship trophy as part of the Super Bowl celebrations. Last year, Penn's Justin Watson, Harvard's Truman Jones, as part of the Kansas City Chiefs. So once again, showing the quality of our product. There are more than 20 NFL right now in the NFL camps, more than 20 former Ivy League football players participating. Once again, an illustration of the quality and the quality depth of the Ivy League football. We'll get started in just a moment with our conversations, but before we do that, we want to introduce Robin Harris for a few of her opening thoughts. Robin has been with us now in her 16th year leading the conference, providing us with a national leadership voice throughout the course of her time here, among other things. Recently, appointments on both the NCAA Constitution Committee, the NCAA Transformation Committee, also currently the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Women's Sports Foundation. And we're just delighted and very proud to have her as our leader. So Robin, welcome to you.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you for that introduction and for your friendship. You continue to be a remarkable ambassador for Ivy League football, and we're thrilled to have you joining us again today for Ivy League Football Media Day and throughout the season on ESPN during our broadcasts. And good morning, all, and welcome to Ivy League Football Media Day. I am incredibly excited for the unofficial start of the 2024 Ivy League football season. I would like to extend a special welcome to our media members that are joining us today. Thank you for telling the story of our Ivy League student athletes. You know, as I reflected on what I wanted to say today, one word kept coming to mind, and that is stability. Stability for the Ivy League generally, and also stability for Ivy League football. We may have some new faces on the football sidelines this year and in this briefing today, but all of those men that Jack alluded to have extensive Ivy League ties and experience. And it's because of those deep ties that I am truly confident that these new head coaches will uphold the tradition and the competitiveness of the Ivy League. And over the last few weeks, the whole world has witnessed the strength of Ivy League athletics, with our athletes combining for 32 medals at the Olympic Games. It's amazing. Earlier, Jack touched on our impact in the NFL and that for the 5th straight year, an Ivy won the Super Bowl. All of this demonstrates the success of our model. It is possible to put students first, and it is possible to still compete and win on the biggest stages that sports have to offer. The Ivy League is as strong and competitive now as it has ever been. And in this time of flux in college athletics, I want to invite those who love tradition, storied rivalries, and competitive, high-quality football to turn on ESPN each weekend this fall and join us in watching Ivy League football. Thank you again to everyone for your support of Ivy League football. I hope you enjoyed today's program and the 2024 season. Jack, I'll pass it back to you.
Robin, thank you again. And thank you, as we said before, for your leadership throughout the course of this period of time. I know, having spent so much time with you, that it doesn't happen to be just your job, but it's also your passion. You deeply believe in what we're doing, especially Ivy League football. Robin, thank you once again. So just a reminder, what we're going to do now is we'll be chatting with each of the teams, their head coach, 2 of their student athletes, and there'll be time allotted at the end of each of those for questions from the media members. So if you have a question, just use the raise hand function, and you'll be prompted once it's your turn to ask a question. A reminder also, the entire program is going to be recorded. It's also being live streamed to the league's YouTube account. If you would like a recording sent to you directly, please contact JJ Klein, the league office's football communications contact, at jj@ivyleague.com. So now we have the opportunity to begin our conversations here. And we're going to start, as we said, with Brown University. And we're being joined by Brown head coach James Perry, also quarterback Jake Wilcox, and defensive back Isaiah Reed. And welcome to all of you. Coach Perry, always good to see you.
Great to see you, Jack.
All right. So we are literally days away from getting started. And let me ask you to do the same thing we're going to ask each of the head coaches to do. Just give us just a few moments of your thoughts, kind of a state of the program address, if you will, heading into the new season.
Sure. Thanks, Jack. Well, first of all, this is an exciting day, kind of kicks off the season, and it's fun to be with you and be with our 2 captains here, Jake and Isaiah. It's a shot in the arm where we all need football, and here we go, right? So this is our 5th season, and it is a lot of fun and exciting for me because, you know, these are all guys that we recruited, guys that over the course of this time we developed, and I'm really proud of the efforts that the entire team has made, but in particular the older group. You know, next year we'll have 7 fifth years, Jack. We have 25 seniors, so a really deep and veteran group of guys who've worked hard to get Brown football in a place that it can compete in a time when the league is playing as good a football as certainly in the last 25 years that I can remember, having been a part of the league. So super exciting. It's my favorite part of the job, is coaching those older guys while simultaneously welcoming a freshman class onto campus and in what I believe is the best school in the country. So exciting there. And it's just a lot of exciting things happening at Brown University. President Paxton's done a fabulous job injecting a lot of energy in new facilities and things like that onto Brown's campus. And our Vice President of Athletics, Grace Calhoun, has kind of helped elevate the status of Brown athletics. And 2024, no doubt, will be a very difficult year because we play in a competitive league, but an exciting one because I think we have our deepest roster yet. So I look forward to it. Today, we're joined by our quarterback and captain, Jake Wilcox. He's been with us for 5 years and had a spectacular year last year. And only we expect bigger and better things out of him with the work that he's put in. And senior captain Isaiah Reed, who's a corner for us, who had a fabulous year last year. And we'll tap into both their work ethic and their leadership this year, upcoming year.
Let me ask you a couple of questions looking forward. Coming off of a 5-5 season, some very close losses. Those numbers could have been dramatically different, but still a good solid season. Looking ahead, let me ask you let's start on the offensive side of the ball. And what do you see as the strengths then coming into the 2024 season?
Yeah, I think we've talked about playing fast for the whole duration that we've been here, and offensively, that does mean an up-tempo, no huddle way of playing football, but it also means you need depth. So I think as you create depth through recruitment and player development and kind of lean into it when you have it, it means we're going to play a lot of players, and that has to be our strength. So it's awesome to have Jake back. He's a spectacular quarterback, does a great job on the offensive line. We have some great singular players like Hayden and Jack who've played a lot of football for us. But really, we need depth. We need 9 offensive linemen. And while we have some terrific targets to throw to for Jake, we really need 6, 7 wideouts and 2, 3 running backs. So that's our philosophy. We love to play as many plays as we can in the game, but that requires as many players ready to play. So that's what this August will be about. We are a deeper team. We are kind of more veteran team, but we need to find out who the 6th, 7th, 8th linemen are. We need to find out who the 3rd, 4th, 5th wideouts are. And we look forward to the competition to kind of cultivate that. But certainly we got some good guys to tap into there.
And same question, defensive side of the ball. What are you seeing as your strengths coming into this season now? And what are you seeing as some areas that you're going to have to get stronger?
Sure. So we always talk about trying to attack and dictate on defense. So up tempo, no huddle on offense, attack and dictate on defense. Isaiah here at corner is a great example of that. And we want him to take another step. So we got guys who create turnovers and straight tackles for loss. We want even more, right? But similar to the offensive side of the ball, when we're playing our best football on defense, it's going to be because we can go deep on the defensive line, right? So on offensive line, we're talking, we got to find that 6th, 7th, 8th lineman, and so we play a lot of guys. Defensive line would be the same exact thing, right? How can we create depth on the defensive line so we can stay on the attack, which is where we want to be. So we got enough guys, and they're ready to compete, so we'll find out who they are. And I think when we can use that depth, we'll play our best defense.
Let's talk to some of those guys that you have coming back, and these 2 guys, not just your captains, but garnering all sorts of preseason honors, as a matter of fact. Let me start with Jake Wilcox, your quarterback. Jake, I suspect that there's some guys around the Ivy League saying, "Wait a minute, that guy's back again? Is he ever going to leave Providence?" Talk about the idea of having now coming back another year at a place where. And we've said this on the air before, going back to your coach, a lot of people talk about Brown as QBU, some great quarterbacks coming out there. Talk about your experience and now that opportunity to have one more year.
Yeah, I'm extremely fortunate to play for a guy like Coach Perry and Coach Madison, and learn behind guys like EJ Perry and all the alumni that really do a good job of staying connected with the guys here. But yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievable opportunity, and I love Brown University, and that's the reason I came back. I knew for a fact I was going to take this spring off and come back and play some football. So I'm really excited. I love the guys that we got around here with us. Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity with this season, and we've been grinding all summer, and I was here for some spring practices as well, and we got guys really working hard, and I think the culture here is unbelievable, and it's something that I can't get enough of. I can't wait to get the pads on.
Yeah. I should mention you've been named to the Walter Payton Award watch list, which is the top offensive player in our level, the FCS level, which is certainly an honor for you, a recognition of what you've done so far. But looking ahead to what you're doing, we talked about QBU. It could also be wide receiver U. There have been a lot of really good wideouts coming out of Brown. You lost a couple of the best, Wes Rocket and Graham Walker. Wes Rocket, I think, when we were on the air covering one of your games, I think Eric Freed, who does play-by-play, not entirely facetiously, said he was wondering if Wes is having his Social Security checks delivered to him at Providence yet. So great quality wide receivers, and they caught a lot of balls, but they're gone now. and talk about, if you will, how you have to develop and what you have to work with in terms of creating an entire group of new wide receivers.
Yeah, playing with Weston Graham was also an honor, but like as Coach Perry spoke to earlier, the depth we have is something I think is really a strong suit of ours, and for our guys to be able to learn behind them for the past couple of years, I mean, I think we got 7 or 8 guys that are ready to play right now. We got guys like Mark Mahoney, Solomon Miller, Ty Pezza, just right off the top. Those three I think are some that are ready to go, but I think that these guys, like I said, put in the work, and it's going to show this fall. By the way that they play, and everybody just really is excited to play some football and get out there and make plays.
So Isaiah, let me bring you into the conversation also. As I mentioned, preseason award, Buck Buchanan Award watch list, also preseason All-American, coming off of an exceptional season that you had last year, 4th in the FCS in interceptions per game. So when you talk about Brown football, you know that the team's going to score points. You know, they're going to play fast, as Coach Perry said. So that puts, I'm a former defensive back, so I know that puts an extraordinary amount of pressure on the defensive side of the ball to keep up with the guys on the offensive side of the ball who are sort of turning it into a track meet sometimes. So talk a little bit about then how you approach this as the complementary and as important element of this team, and that's building the defense.
Yes, sir. Definitely going against the offense in practice helps every day. We're going against great quarterback, great receiver, great running backs. We're going against great competition every day in practice. So it makes games a lot easier. But we built a culture, like Jake said, and we feel like that culture is just ready to go. The offense strikes and we'll return fire. It doesn't matter if we get in a shootout, a defensive battle, we feel prepared for anything.
Got a lot of seniors coming back, as Coach Perry said, but also, you have to, in this league, you have to incorporate younger guys. And sometimes very early on, you haven't started practice yet, but give us a sense of how you see kind of a balance of the defense being developed here in terms of veteran players, younger players.
Yes, sir. We all been here for a while now. I feel like for the most part, most of the returning players on the defense, we came in together. We all have like this chemistry, this bond, like we just fight with each other. And then we had the same with the offense. Like it's always like a big brother, little brother thing. And that type of chemistry, that type of friction, that helps us just become stronger. And without that bond we made and without the growth we've made together, I don't think we've made strides this far.
Yeah. Jake, let me come back to you, because Isaiah mentioned something interesting, which is, hey, he goes up against you in the offense every day. And coaches are always looking for ways to get better, and certainly one of those ways is to have your preseason watch list defensive back going off against your preseason watch list quarterback here. But from the offensive perspective, give me your views on the defense that you've seen. Now, again, we haven't started into practice yet, but you've had workouts. Give me your views on the strengths of that Brown defense coming into this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a lot of strength in the secondary, as well as on the defensive line. I think we do a really good job of competing, which I think competition breeds excellence, and it's something Coach Perry instilled in us since the first day I got here. That's how you become a better team, is by competing. And I think that their competitive level is unmatched, and I think it uplifts us every day at practice, and it really leads us to becoming a better team.
I want to bring in some questions from our media folks. Scott Cordischi is with us from ESPN, and going to bring him into the conversation. Scott, welcome.
Jack, thank you. Jake, I guess the first question for you, and I know you probably already addressed this a little bit, but I just want to kind of have you follow up on it. So you lose 2 big targets in Wes and Graham. Are you comfortable that the rest of the guys are ready to step up at that position? Because it seems like elsewhere on offense, you've got some depth in the offensive line. Looks like you get a deep stable of running backs. The one question mark I see is who's going to step up and be that number 1, that number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm extremely confident in them. There's no lack of confidence. I can tell you that now. Like you said, losing Weston Graham is obviously it stinks. They were great players for us for a long time, but we have a ton of depth, and I think it's truly a testament to all the hard work from this spring and this summer. And I think, like I said earlier, I think it's going to show this fall with just the way we compete. I think the way we compete is really special, and we're excited to showcase that.
Isaiah, similar question to you. I mean, the secondary certainly was a strength of the defense last year, thanks in part to you, but you lose your starting safeties. I guess just tell us about the back end of the defense and the secondary and how confident you are that other guys are ready to step in and step up.
Definitely losing Trey Aubrey is definitely big. We're gonna miss them, but we're gonna be all right. I'm feeling comfortable with the dudes coming in. I feel comfortable with the linebackers. Feel comfortable with the D line. I'm just ready to show everybody. I'm ready.
Isaiah, one of the most fun moments of the season was your matchup with Jared Richardson down at Penn. How much do you look forward to those type of matchups when you're facing some of the elite receivers in the league?
Oh yes, sir, definitely. I talked to him recently. We congratulate on each other. He's doing great things. But I definitely look forward to those matchups. Every game is a great game, but the games that test you, the games that like you really got to fight for, those are the best games. But I'm looking forward to every receiver I got to guard this year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Scott. Coach, let me come back to you for a second. And I mentioned at the very top of this that the league's going to look a little different this year. We have 3 new head coaches. And, I think one of the interesting things about the Ivy League has been the sense of stability. And Robin Harris mentioned that our traditions are stability. And part of that is stability within the programs, within the coaching staffs. But we see now, again, 3 of the 8 new faces, including new coach at Harvard. And Coach Tim Murphy, who we know has been there for 30 years and just done a spectacular job at Harvard. And it's going to be kind of odd to cover a game and not see Murph on the sideline with his camouflage cap on and his plays tucked into his waist. I'm curious about you and your thoughts of this kind of change and the different faces now this year in the league.
Sure. Well, I think first of all, it's true Ivy fashion, though. These are guys who know the league very, very well. Dan knows the league. He's been in it, obviously. John knows the league very well. But in the case of Andy, not only does he know the league, but he's going to know Bob Zerace and I very well. So I was really, really happy for him. Not thrilled because Harvard got a great coach from my own perspective, but I was really happy for him. He's a terrific coach and a guy who does know the league. And I think if I put my alum hat on, and I thought the intro, both you and Robin did a great job of putting it. There's so much to be proud of. But in the case of Brown, over the course of the last 5 years, just watching what's going on nationally relative to what's going on here, I mean, I think every Brown alum can be very proud of the kids. And hearing Jake say that, hey, he just loves Brown. He came back for his 5th year because he loves it here. He believes in the place. Isaiah is a senior. He's been a leader for the last 2 years, and nobody works harder than these guys. So a lot to be proud of in the league broadly, and then in particular here at Brown. And I'm sure John will leave his mark at Columbia. Dan will leave his mark at Cornell, and Andy for sure will leave his mark on Harvard.
It is, but as you said, it is one of the things about the league is the connections that the players and the coaches have to that league. I got another question here. John Sarianides from the New England Football Journal. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Coach Perry, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, John.
So obviously coming off a 5-5 season last year, the next step obviously is to compete for a league title. I've watched you build this the right way the last few years. Do you believe, given where you guys are at right now, and I know we've talked a lot about the guys that aren't going to be there, but let's focus on the guys that are there. Do you believe that you have that requisite depth in place now to take that next step and make that Ivy League title run?
Yeah, and in particular in this league, it's a junior senior league. I think Steve Verbit at Princeton used to say it, and Bob and I used to talk about it all the time. You know, you as a coach, you lean on those older guys, and this is the deepest roster we've had. A lot of work to do. We know how tough the league is. We know the challenges in front of us, you know, including kind of the calendar. It's a wacky calendar year with the training camp being so short. But when you have a lot of juniors and seniors, John, it gets you excited as a coach because you know you can push them. And I think everybody who loves Brown football should be excited because these kids are awesome and they're ready to work.
Thanks, Coach.
John, thank you. So Coach Perry, Jake Wilcox, Isaiah Reed, thank you all for joining us and sharing your thoughts about Brown football. It's always fun to watch. Looking forward to it. And we'll look forward to seeing all of you, as a matter of fact, on Friday, October 18th. Brown's going to be down at Princeton, and ESPN is going to be covering that. So we'll look forward to all that. Good luck to all of you, and we will talk to you soon. Take care now.
Thanks, Jack. Great job, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Moving on now. We're going to talk with the folks from Columbia. I mentioned new head coach John Poppy is going to be joining us. Also, C.J. Brown, who is a linebacker, Bryson Canty, wide receiver for Columbia. They should be with us hopefully in just a moment or so, and we can start our conversation. I think Coach Poppy is there right now. Coach, welcome. We'll get to you in 1 second. C.J. Brown, Bryson Canty, have all of you now. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here. We're looking forward to certainly the new Ivy League season. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have the great good fortune to provide the color commentary for ESPN for the 6 games that we do on the ESPN linear network, and we're certainly looking forward to the opportunity to see the Columbia team playing here. So, Coach Poppy, I'm going to start with you. And ask you, as we're asking each of the head coaches, just to give us your thoughts. We've described as a sort of state of the program address. Just give you some of your thoughts leading into this season, if you would.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of excitement, obviously, being back here where my dad and brother played. And, it was a little different transition than my previous one at Union, knowing that I know this place extremely well, and some of the faces haven't changed. Peter Pilling came in as athletic director. When I came in as assistant with Coach Bagnoli, so it was great to be able to work with him again, and Jess DiPaolo, who's part of our successor well-being team, and even our strength staff and support staff. A lot of continuity here, as much as there's been change. So we're really excited about how we built this thing in the offseason with Coach Lasanti taking the reins as the head strength coach here. He did a tremendous job with these guys all winter long and leading into spring. And it's been fun working with these guys that some of them I recruited, right, during my previous, stint at the other place in the Ivy League I worked at. And it's really been a lot of fun. So we're excited to turn this thing, into something successful off of last year, which was disappointing with so many experienced players. And a lot of those same faces are back. And so I think offensively, defensively, special teams, you've got multiple significant contributors coming back with 11 guys on offense that started the game, 11 guys on defense that started the game, and all 4 main specialists, punter, kicker, long snapper, and returner all back. So I think this is a reason to be excited as a new staff coming in, knowing that we got guys that have played significant minutes.
You mentioned that there is continuity. You've been at Columbia before, so it was a familiar place for you. And part of, I'm sure, the draw for them to say, come back here and coach was because of that familiarity. So even though there's constants here, whenever a new head coach comes in, there's going to be changes. So give us an idea of when you're coming in, what were you looking at in terms of kind of the most significant aspects where you wanted to say, okay, wonderful success before, great coaches. But now that this is my program, and here's what I'm kind of looking to do to start.
I think first thing is mentality, right? We're trying to create a mentality, and what my standard expectation with that is in terms of approach and this word of fight, and how we're developing our young men into men as they enter this program and leave it. And it's really about getting through the day to make sure you finish it and say, I'm proud of myself. I don't care about the pats on the back I get, external voices and noise doesn't matter. It's about the internal and the people that are in our rooms, right, are in our practice field that are truly investing in and holding each other accountable to that standard expectation that we're all doing the best we possibly can with what we're given. And I think that's been the most important thing to me as we build this into something even greater than Coach Bagnoli and his previous staff were able to accomplish in Columbia's history. But, you know, this isn't your dad's or my dad's Columbia anymore. This is all new, and that's because of the investment this university has made in athletics at large and football specifically. And so the culture is really the biggest thing that we've tried to instill here in this short time that we've been together. And then it's just the fundamentals. Football's a simple game, right? Catch it, throw it, run it, tackle it, block it, you know, destruct blocks. And that's really was a big focus for us in the winter and spring.
So you're just about ready to get started with practice. You had, as you mentioned, the winter and spring to work through. So with that as your backdrop, give us your sense of what you see. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. What you're seeing here so far as the strengths that you think the offense will have coming into the season.
I'm really excited about our offensive line. I think we're still looking for depth, but we returned 4 guys that started for us. So we'll fill in 1 spot. And we'll see who wins that job in camp. It's right now looks to be a senior that's going to fill that role, and Pat Colicchio, who's done a tremendous job of just improving every single day, being a senior leader that he is. And there's some other guys in the mix there. I'm really confident in that group. Obviously, our first team all-Ivy running backs coming back. You got Bryson, who we hope is feeling the best he's ever felt, who's a game changer. And then, you know, you've got some other perimeter players. And I think everyone's looking forward to seeing who's playing quarterback for us, knowing that there's weapons, you know, surrounding him. And it's up to us as coaches to make sure we're putting our guys in the right positions. But I'm really excited about the offensive line and the perimeter skill that we have.
How about from the defensive side of the ball? What are you seeing as the strengths coming into this season?
And, you know, I don't see many holes in terms of, again, experience. And that's a huge thing playing defense in this league, and any defense, right, is a communication element that has to exist on the defensive side of the football. Recognizing formations, recognizing personnel changes and plays. And so you have, you know, 2 of our 2 captains all on the defensive side of the ball, led by CJ and Pat Pasalacqua. And I think that's a huge strength, where you've got 2 captains who are returning as captains. So multiple year captains coming back from a leadership perspective. And that's exciting for us as coaches, knowing that we have that available to us. And Coach Stovall, who I worked with as an assistant, I'm grateful that he decided to come back and continue to be a part of this thing, and having that true continuity with terminology on defense as well.
Yeah. How about let me flip it around, and you touch base on this a bit, but I'll ask you to expand a little bit. And let's start back on the offensive side of the ball. The most important questions that you need to have answered before you open up.
Yeah, I think quarterback is one that's the biggest question in my mind in terms of who's going to be distributing the football and running the show. I think Chase Goodwin had a tremendous spring for us in his growth. I think everyone's excited about Cole Freeman coming in as a transfer. And then, you know, AJ Simpkins had a great finish to the spring. So I think we've got 3 guys we can, you know, lean on that we're confident that if they win the job, here we go. And I think our offensive staff, led by Saitu Smith, who's, you know, very familiar with the Ivy League, he's been on multiple Ivy League staffs, you know, and he's a former, you know, player at Harvard himself. And then Greg Skold coached here. AJ Gallagher came from Princeton. Chris Batty worked with me at Harvard. Right. And you have guys that are familiar with this league and that are going to adapt to our personnel. I think that's the most exciting thing for me as a coach, is that we've got guys who have zero ego and are going to build this thing to make sure we're doing what's most effective week to week.
And on the defensive side, and I should mention, last year, I think 10th in FCS in scoring defense. And what's, I think, been interesting covering Columbia the last few years is that defense has been solid year in and year out, and then been up in the top rankings in terms of scoring defense and other elements of the defense. That being said, what sort of questions do you need to have answered before you open up on the defensive side?
I think just depth at defensive back is one thing that we want answered this preseason. I think we return a lot of senior leadership at linebacker and D line. I think it's finding depth at defensive back. And I know Coach Stovall and Coach Cook, our defensive backs coach, are excited about some of the guys that progressed during spring and even some newcomers that could show up in campus here on Thursday. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're looking to figure out. during this preseason camp.
All right, let me bring both Bryson and CJ into the conversations. And Bryson, I'll start with you if I can. Coach mentioned, looking forward to seeing you healthy. 2 years ago, first team All Ivy, had a great season, 50 some balls caught, if I remember correctly. And then, but 3 games or so into the season last year, all of a sudden, you get hurt and it's not what you had looked for. Let's say it that way. So my first question to you is physically, how are you feeling? Are you 100%? What are you looking forward to in terms of this new season?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us on here. But I'm feeling great right now. I'm feeling 100%, and honestly, I'm really ready to get back out there with the team. Like I hate being away from everybody. That's one of the hard things, especially just wanting to have like our offenses back, especially, but just overall the whole team. So I'm super excited to get back out there with the guys.
Coach was talking about one of the questions is who's going to be getting the ball to you, or what number of guys might be getting the ball to you. I haven't started practice yet, but you've had the summer now, workouts, and give me your sense of what you're seeing there in terms of talent in the possibilities for the guys who could end up being the starting quarterback once you're ready to open up the season.
Yeah, so like Coach Pop mentioned, we have 3 guys right now who I have faith in all of them to distribute the rock. I think the spring showcased a plethora of talents for each of them, like being able to escape the pocket, being able to complete the deep ball. So like regardless of who's back there, from what we've worked on in the spring and summer, I have a lot of faith in that ability to distribute the ball to me, but not only just me, to the other weapons that we also have on offense.
CJ, let me bring you into the conversation. I mentioned in my conversation with Coach about the fact that Columbia has really last few years established a tradition of a stingy defense, not giving up a lot of points, leading nationwide leaders in a lot of the defensive categories, right? So you've been there a while. Give me a sense of, first, why has the defense been so successful the last few years?
Yeah, like you say, I have been here for a while, since my sophomore year, and I think it's a culture thing, bigger than anything else. It's how we conduct our practices every day. It's how we are locked in as a unit, from the starting nose tackle to the last string safety. Everybody's locked in, and we have consistent defensive meetings before games. We have group chats that we're active in. It's just a culture thing. We're one band, one sound. We're all locked in, and we're like a pack of lions, and we all know the objective. So it's pretty easy for us in that aspect. It's more of a family than it is a unit. So it's kind of easy to go out there and perform every week with it being like that since I've been here.
So as a leader on the defense who's a veteran, what are you looking to when you gather up your guys and you're talking about, all right, here's what we need to do today to get better. Here's what we need to do this week to get better. What do you think you need to do to get better by the time you're ready for that first game?
I think one thing that was glaring last year is that we played good, but not good enough. We were top, whatever, but record didn't reflect a defense that won us games. And so I think just not settling for good and being great, and I think that comes with attention to detail and a lot of things, and it's things that you don't recognize until it shows up on a Saturday. It's things of wearing the same thing to lifts. It's things of, hey, everybody get off the sideline. It's things of everybody got the call of this play when we're in the first week of camp, not when we're in the 8th week against Harvard in the 4th quarter. So it starts there, and I think that's something we need to focus on going into the season, is just the attention to detail that can elevate us from not just good and top 10, but to great, especially with how our offense is looking. I think we'll definitely won't be put with our backs to the wall in a lot of games like we have been last year. So I think they'll give us a lot of opportunities to win games as well. And so I think that as long as we up the standard, there's no reason why we shouldn't be Ivy League champions.
Alex Vespoli from ESPN is joining us. Let me bring Alex into the conversation. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Just a quick question for Coach, a couple actually. I really enjoyed watching your units at, as you said, the other place in the league that you coached at for a few years, and especially special teams and the aggressiveness that your teams brought with that. How much of that culture are you hoping to instill in your squad there? Because it's such a a hidden unit of production? And then also just wanted to touch on your experience as a head coach at Union. How much do you feel like the 1 year that you had there and the success that you had prepare you for this, step up here into the Ivy League?
Alex, thanks. Yeah, special teams obviously is a huge part of this game, and it's not a third, but there's a difference-making aspect to special teams for sure, right? You block a punt, and it's a 90% chance you have to win the game. So one of the first things when building a staff, I had, developed a great relationship with Garrett McLaughlin, who was the special teams coordinator at University of New Hampshire, and had a great season last year leading those units and multiple years there. And he was one of the first calls I made to hire him, because I think he is a game-changing coach with how he structures things and builds things from a special team side of things. So, we're going to do everything we can to win that phase to hopefully create advantages for us. And whether that's return game or it's the true kicking game aspects, I'm really excited what Coach McLaughlin's bringing here. And then the Union experience definitely prepared me in terms of just how to manage things. I think that was more of really running out of a moving car when I got the job at Union as opposed to Columbia, again, because of comfortability in places and having worked here previously for 3 years. And again, just this is the first football game I attended as a kid, right? Going to homecoming games and watching Marcellus Wiley, play, and even watching some earlier versions of Columbia football. That it's been an amazing thing to now lead and see it into a different era, so to speak. And that's where I think the Union prepared me for the Union experience prepared me for certain things, but definitely not as much of that feeling running out of a moving car.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to chatting with you a little bit later in the season.
Thank you, Alex. Look forward to it too.
Alex, thank you. Hey, Bryson, let me ask you a question. It's similar to what I asked to Coach. You've been there for a while. You've had the experience of some excellent coaching, but things change. When a new coach comes in, things are different. That doesn't mean you characterize it as better or worse. It's different. So what are your thoughts as to how things, it's just been for a short period of time now, but it's been a winter, it's been a spring and a little bit of a summer. Your thoughts, Bryson, as to how things seem to be different this season?
Yeah, with the change in the coaching staff, I feel like it was almost effective immediately that you could tell, like just the mentality of the overall team had changed, like hopping into winter workouts as soon as the season was over, that 3-7 season fresh on our mind. Like it wasn't hard to find that motivation, and like especially through the coaching staff, like they brought us together. Like everybody's united in our cause, and like we know what our goal is, and we're not really worried about like outside sources. Like Coach Pop always expresses all the time, like other people don't matter. It's really about us and what we have to get done. So like under them, like the team mentality, everybody's really moving as one unit right now, and we gotta hope to continue to do that so we can get our desired results.
Mm-hmm. And CJ, same question to you. Again, a veteran, you've been there for a while. Different look, different feel with the new coaching staff.
So I took the spring off, so I kind of watched it from a distance in that sense, but I was always around. But I could tell the difference between when I went and talked to my teammates that were there, the rising seniors, and how they talked about workouts. It wasn't, oh man, we had 5 a.m. today. It was, oh yeah, we put in work today. It's a stark difference in the mentality behind it, and that's something I really appreciated. And I think Coach Poppy really brings an energy I find similar to Coach Stowe and how he runs things. So it's very familiar to me. And how he runs the team is just as if I was listening to Coach Stowe's brother, or Coach Stowe 2.0 right there, who's our defensive coordinator. So I don't think it brings too much of a difference to the team. And Coach Pop made it a point to understand our culture and then kind of be the engine to drive the car of it, not necessarily try to get us in a whole new vehicle and have us learn the wheels of that. So I give kudos to Coach Pop for that it hasn't felt different. I still feel like family, still feels like home. All the coaches talked to him, met him. So I wouldn't say it's really been too much difference, just a mentality shift from the guys that are in there feeling it. So that's something I really appreciate and saw from a distance, but definitely felt the effects of it.
Yeah. Coach, back to you for maybe perhaps the last question. We've talked about how the sidelines will look different this year. There's some guys, Coach Bagnoli stepped down a year ago. after having this illustrious career at Penn and then resurrecting. I think it's fair to say Columbia's fortunes. Coach Murphy, 30 years on the sideline and some just great success there. What are your thoughts of stepping into now these voids? Some of these legends gone, but stepping in as the head coach. You've had experience, of course, but now you're the head coach in what is clearly a legendary football league.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild. Someone brought it to my attention the other day. I might be one of the only people on this planet that worked for both Coach Murph and Coach Bagnoli. And obviously, wish them both well. I see Coach Bagnoli pretty frequently, actually. He's around still, and it's great to bounce some things off him, obviously, with all his experience. And I'm excited to see when they get into the College Hall of Fame, which should be hopefully in the near future. And I think all these people still know each other, right? Coach Perry was at Williams when I was playing, and Coach Serace I had a chance to get to know just through Springfield College connections, and obviously Coach Orich, working with a close buddy of mine, I played at Williams, Sean Gleason. And so Tony Reno hiring me at Harvard, it really was him, not Murph, that stood on the table for me. And so it's great to just, I guess, compete with all these, men, right, that care about football, care about the development of student athletes in a way that it transcends football, in my opinion. And so that's what has me most excited to lead an Ivy League football program.
Well, we will be watching carefully. You guys open up against Lafayette, not an easy opening. I think preseason number 17, Saturday, September 21st. And we'll look forward to seeing you on ESPN on Friday, November 1st, when the Yale Bulldogs come to visit. So, Coach, pleasure getting a chance to chat with you. Congratulations on the job. As you know already, it's a wonderful place. CJ Bryson, congratulations to you in terms of your success and being named captains. And we'll look forward to seeing all of you during the course of this season. So thanks again for joining us. Good luck to all of you.
Jack, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, we're gonna chat with the folks from Cornell. Head coach Dan Swanstrom is going to be joining us. He's going to be bringing with him linebacker Damon Barnes and also quarterback Jameson Wong. See, Coach Swanstrom seems to be with us right now. We'll see if we can get Coach. Welcome. Glad to have you here with us. And we'll see if the other guys will be joining us while we're waiting for them. Oh, here we go. Jameson Wong, Damon Barnes. Good, both with us. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much all for joining us. Coach, let me start with you. And what we've been doing with each of our head coaches is asking them to give just some preliminary thoughts on the upcoming season. We've described it as a sort of a state of the program address. Yours, obviously, you've been involved winter, spring, ready to start your first summer camp. But based upon what you've seen so far, give us your thoughts for this upcoming season.
Moving forward, just hired in December, got to go through the spring with the players, and I thought the energy was really high, and really guys really tried to make a big commitment to the sport of football and what I was asking of them, and weren't around them much this summer, just per NCAA rules, but I've heard good things about the work that was put in this summer, and now it's truly just about moving forward and getting to practice, getting to be with the players again. How we're going, where we're going. I don't have the answers for you. You know what I mean? I can't predict the future, but what we're worried about right now is just what's in front of us and how good we can handle the day in front of us. And if we can get just a little bit better each and every day, we'll see where the outcomes take it. But the energy's high. There's excitement. There's passion for the sport of football. And you got a coaching staff that is really excited to be at Cornell and really excited about the collection of players that we inherited.
Yeah, about the coaching staff, including yourself, of course, and you've had experience in the Ivy League. Interestingly, each of the new head coaches have deep experience within the league. You have experience in Ithaca in terms of your coaching there. So now having the chance to step on the sidelines here as the head coach, I think in many instances, not that you haven't been a head coach before, but now it's a different place in a league that you know very well. But I suspect there are still uncertainties when you walk into it. So talk a little bit about, again, now as the new head coach at Cornell, how you approach your job and it basically creating your own sense of this program.
The uncertainties go around coaching 18 to 22-year-old men and being judged on 10 games as on the outcomes, the unknown, you know what I mean? Those are the uncertainties. But as far as my comfort as the head coach, my 5 years as the head coach at Ithaca College and the preparation, being a coordinator, I was a coordinator at Johns Hopkins in 2009, was 6 years. So I truly feel that I've never been more prepared to be in this position where I am. I am more prepared to be the head coach at Cornell than I was to be the head coach at Ithaca College. And those years of reps have put me in a place where I have complete comfort in what I'm doing and what I'm building. The outcomes I can't predict, but I do know this: we're going to run a great program. It is going to have high standards and high expectations. We're going to demand a lot from our students. We're going to challenge them in the classroom. We're going to stretch them on the football field. I'm going to lead. Our coaches are going to lead. We are going to be a player-led program. And we do those right things over and over. We'll see where the outcomes take us. But, when you're the head coach at Ithaca College, that program is the most important thing to you in the world. And the players in that program and the coaches. And you walk back and you sit down in this seat and the feelings are exactly the same. And now that I'm the head coach of an Ivy League institution here at Cornell, it may seem like a bigger stage, but in my gut and in my stomach, the moments in my life prior, those were the biggest moments for me. So the feelings are the same, and it's exciting. I mean, football is an amazing sport, and to get to be the head coach at Cornell and to coach these young men and to lead these coaches is everything I've ever wanted in this profession.
As you said, it's a great school, one of the great settings. I love playing at Shelkoff Field. When my Yale team would come up there to play, it was one of it was, I think, the second place to put down AstroTurf.
It was
the
early.
old
Yes.
AstroTurf was terrible, but it looked great. And I think as a player, you walked out onto it and you said, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm feeling like I'm in the NFL here right now." So it's a great program. I'm sure you know that. Looking ahead, I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked the coaches. Looking ahead, again, it's you haven't started practice yet, but you have some basis for your knowledge of this team. Let's talk strengths on the offensive side. What do you anticipate the strengths should be of this Cornell offense this season?
We have so many unknowns. I mean, literally, this program is just full of question marks on every side of the ball. And the only evidence I have is what we did against each other. So are we good on offense? Are we good on defense? Are we bad on both and just kind of beating up each other? That's the information I do have. Now, my history in this league and have watched and poured over film the past 2 years, I do expect our quarterback to play well, and I expect him to play at a super high level. And I have high expectations and high standards for him, and I fully expect him to be our leader and our strength on offense.
How about defense? Looking at what you anticipate the strengths to be for the defensive side of the ball?
Once again, we don't have a ton of returners coming back, so there's a lot of fresh faces over there and a lot of people we got to know over in the spring. There's a glimpse here, a glimpse there, but once again, when you're competing against your own offense, are we good? Are we okay? These questions until we line up against Colgate, we're not going to be able to answer these questions. And my expectations on defense have to be set in a way and measured in a different way. But we fully expect to play with great effort and great intensity and play smart football. And we'll see and let the talent take over when we find out when we take the field against Colgate.
Let me chat with a little bit with some of the players here. Jameson, I'm going to start with you if I could. I remember we were covering for ESPN back when you were a first year. The first game, I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was the first game up. It was up in Ithaca that you had some major exposure, and everybody's comment was, "This guy's a player, and this guy is going to be the future of this offense." And it's been playing out that way. You know, last year, seventh in FCS in total offense per game, second team All Ivy. So with that as your backdrop, and with a new coaching staff now here, what's your anticipation? What are your hopes coming into this new season?
Yeah, I just want to say what's up, Jack. It's great seeing you.
Good to see you as always, and you're so much fun to watch on the field.
I appreciate it. I just want to first off by saying all praise to the Most High. My expectations this year is everything that Coach Swanstrom wants. I've had a lot of time with him this spring so far. I spent all my meetings, all my time on the field with him. So we've had a really close relationship, and I'm just an extension of him. So whatever his mission, whatever his goal is, that's my mission as well. And I know not only me, but the guys in the locker room, we're ready to run through a brick wall for him. So we're just ready to go, get after it, and go win some games. Cornell's has history of losing, and we're ready to flip that script this year.
Coach mentioned that he wants this to be among other things, a player-led team. You will obviously, you're the quarterback, you're a veteran here. How do you think that's translating, what he's looking for? How's it translating to your day-to-day interactions with the other players?
No, for sure. This is my senior year. I've been playing in the Ivy League for the last 3 years. I know what it takes to be good. I've had the experience, so now it's me latching on to the younger guys. I'm the fourth year now. I'm the guy, and I need to be able to teach the younger guys and to show them the way as well. So for me, just being the best leader and the best teammate I could be for these guys is everything that Coach Swanstrom needs me to do. And I'm just looking forward to going out there against Colgate week 1 and showing everyone what we got.
So Damon, from your perspective, the other side of the ball, give us a sense of, and I've mentioned this before, how do things look and feel different now with the new coaching staff?
I feel like some of the new coaches that Coach Swanstrom has brought in on the defensive side of the ball, they've helped us a lot with being where we have to be on the field at all times, being on the same accord, being on the same page at all times, and just preaching a vow of we'll always bring the most intensity we have every time we step on the field. Just being the most intense team, being the most relentless team, making offenses say at the end of the game, like, you guys, like, they just won't go away. And that's just the message we've been preaching all spring, and something we'll for sure carry into the summer, into fall camp, and into the season, and into week 1 against Colgate.
So as a defensive leader here, let me ask you to look across the line of scrimmage at your offense and talk a little bit about when you see that offense day in, day out on the field, what do you see as what you think will be the strengths of this offense coming into this new season?
For sure. Obviously, Jameson is an amazing player. I've been with him for 4 years now, and since freshman year, I've seen something special in him. We've both been in the rotation since freshman year, sophomore year. So I've seen him do some things that a lot of people, a lot of quarterbacks cannot do. We also have a lot of young guys, a lot of young weapons that we obviously plan to utilize. A lot of guys that have experience going against us. So I feel like iron sharpens iron at the end of the day. So I feel like they have a lot of experience going against some coverages that a lot of teams don't do. So when they watch film on other teams, they'll be ready for sure.
It's the same question I asked Jameson, and this is it's coming off of one of the things that Coach said about really needing leadership from the players themselves. Right? And clearly, you two are in that leadership capacity, but how has that been manifesting itself? How has that been, again, we haven't started fall practice yet, but during the course of the spring and the summer, how have you seen the two of you and maybe other players assume that leadership role, perhaps more so than in the past?
Absolutely. a lot of our guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I make sure, not just defense, but offense. I think it's a whole team effort. As far as leadership wise, I feel like anybody can be a leader on this team. But especially on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like we come together just to, make sure that we're on the same page at all times. Whether it's group chats, getting together as a defense, getting together on Zoom, going through plays, getting in the playbook, making sure the younger guys are getting in the playbook. So I feel like anybody and everybody is going to be a leader on this team, and they're going to help us win some games.
Coach, let me come back to you. We talked about the fact that you have literally been in Ithaca now for a number of years, head coach at Ithaca, and now taking over at Cornell. I think Ithaca itself is it's a marvelous place. I remember coming up on my recruiting visit to there, although I do recall, I will say that it was the Cornell spring weekend and there's about 11 inches of snow on the ground. And sometimes that happens. I was talking just the other day with one of my good friends I played against for 4 years, who is probably the all-time legendary Cornell player, and that's Ed Marinaro. Ed second in the Heisman Trophy ballot. I have always said he should have won it. It's a league partisanship. Plus, as I said, I was the monster back for our 3 varsity years, his and mine, at Yale, and I just had to follow him around. The coach would say, Ed goes get a drink of water, you go with him, kind of thing. And nobody a better ambassador for Cornell football than Ed. He's excited about this year. His son is on the team, his son Eddie. And he talked about the fact that one of he thought was the good positive things for you is the place. Now Ithaca you got to travel to get there. Once you get there, it's a wonderful place to be. But how do you think has that helped you in the recruiting that you've been doing so far? The fact that you've lived there for a lot of years. You're not somebody who just sort of drove the trailer in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, Cornell itself, the school is just a wonderful product, and the opportunity for me to bring my family back to Ithaca and be a part of a college town is an amazing place to raise your children, and have that opportunity to bring my family here has been incredible. It's a spectacular community. It's a true college town. I mean, it's like, I grew up in Texas. It feels like some of the Big 12 schools. The size of the school was 16,000 students, 10,000 graduate students. So it's 26,000 at college with another 6 on the other hill in Tompkins community. I mean, this place is built for 18 to 22-year-olds, and the whole industry of this place is built on 18 to 22-year-olds. And I get to live on the outskirts and be a part of a marvelous college town for hopefully a very extended part of my life. And Cornell itself is maybe seated in the most spectacular backdrop in the country here in the Finger Lakes, mixed with the incredible academic opportunities that Cornell provides, and being the biggest school in the league. This is a wonderful place. The other, athletic programs have figured it out. They've recruited well. They've competed, from our basketball team winning 23 games this past year, to ice hockey almost being in the finals, to men's lacrosse consistently. They're in the national championship game a couple years ago. Men's tennis was in the top 10. Men's soccer finished in the top 16. So there's something here athletically that you can figure out and tap into, and that's my job to go and figure that out. But you look, a lot of the great coaches here at Cornell and the people who've had success have really deep ties to Cornell. And maybe I don't have those deep registered ties to Cornell, but I do have the experience of being here and being a part of this community for an extended period of time, which, gives me a unique experience to coach and recruit and do a tremendous job. And I tell people this all the time. Okay, when it's 29 and snowing here, it's 38 and sleeting in every other city in the Northeast. So it's not great anywhere up here in the Northeast. So at least we have snow on the ground, and we got a mountain that we can go ski on. So there's some really nice perks to what we have here.
I still, when we're doing games, I still make a point of coming up a day early, kind of wandering around, the campus. It's as you said, just a beautiful place. some wonderful sports traditions going on for a long, long time. So I have to ask you, and I've asked already some of the other new coaches, that you know the league, you know about it, its history, and now you're going to be part of the history of that league as the head coach at Cornell University. What were your thoughts when the administration said, you're the guy, we want you to be the guy now to step in this tradition, great tradition of Cornell football, and you are now the guy who's going to be in charge of it?
Let's put it this way. When the opportunity was offered, there was no negotiation. I said yes before the sentence was even finished. So I was ready to be here and be in this league, and be a head football coach in this league. In a lot of ways, personally and professionally, this is what I set out to do since being, my first. The honest truth is being hired at Johns Hopkins in 2008 and working for Jim Margraf, who coached at Penn, who coached at Columbia, who had deep Albany ties with Al Bagnoli and Ray Piori and so many other coaches within the Ivy League. I can think of a million off the top of my head. So when you go to Johns Hopkins, the best thing you can do recruiting wise is go to every single Ivy League camp and recruit the overflow of the uncommitted Ivy players. And that's how we built such a strong program at Johns Hopkins, was getting the next 25 best players to come to Johns Hopkins. And Coach Margraf being in the league, traveling from school to school, and being a guy from Texas, maybe not as well versed in the league and more used to Texas A&M and the University of Texas. And, my dad being an alum of the University of Texas, you're kind of more in that world. And you're like, wow, this is incredible. You get the academic, the best academic schools in the world, and then you just get this touch of big time within the Ivy League. And but you never lose that term student athlete within this league. Since 2008 and visiting those schools, this is truly a dream come true for me.
Yeah, well, someone who's lived it for a lot of years, I agree entirely with you. It's Cornell is a special place. The league is an extraordinary place with great traditions of success in everything that they do. So, gentlemen, thanks. Jameson, Damon, thanks to both of you for spending some time with us. Good luck moving forward. And Coach, congratulations to you for this. Again, we appreciate your spending some time. Good luck to you. So ESPN will be up in Ithaca. As a matter of fact, Friday, October 11th, the first game in our package this year. Harvard's coming into town, so we will look forward to seeing the Big Red and what you guys can do up there. So again, thanks to all of you. Good luck. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for having us.
So moving forward, conversations with the new coach at Cornell. Moving forward now to Dartmouth. We're going to be joined by head coach Sammy McCorkle, also by linebacker Braden Mullen and quarterback Jackson Proctor. Should be joining us any minute now. We're continuing our conversations here. Ivy League Football Media Day. Coach McCorkle now is joining up with us. And Jackson Proctor is with us also. And we should, in a moment, have Braden Mullen. But in the meantime, Coach McCorkle, nice to see you, as always.
Jack, great to see you, my man.
And gentlemen, thank you also for joining us. Jackson and Braden, we'll get to you in just a few moments. But Coach, we'll start with you if we can. And although we're looking forward to the 2024 season, I think it's just appropriate to take a look back, because as anybody involved with the Ivy League knows, Dartmouth had an extraordinarily emotional season. We start off with the loss of our good friend Coach Buddy Tevens, and then we finish up with Dartmouth staking a claim and sharing the Ivy League title. And I think it's fair to say not expected by a whole lot of people, but certainly expected by you. So give us a sense, if you will, before we look forward, looking back to that season last year and how it played out.
Yeah, Jack, first of all, I want to thank you for being the face and the voice of the Ivy League for all these years. We couldn't ask for a better individual. And then also thank Robin Harris and JJ for taking the time in their organization and putting this together today. This is huge for the Ivy League. And but yeah, just going back to last season, just it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. But it just I think it really showed the resilience of our program, our players, our team. But I think that was something that we learned and were taught by Coach Stevens. That's something that was part of his blueprint. That was part of who he was, part of his DNA. And we always talked about A&I, adjust and improvise. And but I just think it wasn't. I think the individuals involved it took a village. It really did, and the support that we received from all over, from other coaches in the Ivy League, from yourself, from the office of the Ivy League, it was phenomenal. And I can't thank our president Sion Bylock and our athletic director Mike Harity for what they've done for this football program and what they're doing for the athletic programs here at Dartmouth College. And also just the alums across the country. Everybody knows how passionate Dartmouth alums are. And but it was just unbelievable just about how everybody stepped up and was a huge part of helping us. And we took it one day at a time. And that's what we did. We focused on each day. Not every day was easy. There were some really tough times, but I think the culture that has been built here at Dartmouth College, it allowed us to come together and really come together to focus on accomplishing our goals each day. And I have the best staff in the country, our coaching staff and our support staff, them being there and then being experienced, us being together as long as we've been together. That was a big part of it. That allowed us, everybody, to kind of know what we needed to do. And it was definitely the way the season ended. You couldn't ask for a better gift to give to the Stevens family for sure.
And I know they appreciate. I should note, and of course you were there, but the university, Dartmouth College, did a just magnificent event in May, and it was a celebration of Buddy Stevens and his life. And I had the good fortune to be there, and it was an extraordinary event. And I've been to a lot of these, and I don't mean to diminish anybody else's, but I think the feeling that you got from that just underscores all the things you said. And it was most important for me. It truly was a celebration of Coach Stevens. Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. And it just goes to show how many lives and how many individuals he touched. It really did. And it was a very special moment for all of us. And, he'd never he wouldn't have liked all that recognition. He definitely would not have appreciated it. But it was just amazing, just the pouring of support that was received from everybody across the country. It was phenomenal.
I think it was a fantastic statement, certainly. Especially on the heels of the championship season last year. So let me ask you to do what I've asked each of the coaches to do is just to give us just a couple of minutes of your thoughts as you look forward to this season.
Yeah, we're excited. I think our guys have had a really good off season. We talk about all the time in our program, taking care of the little things, attention to details, nothing's too small. And obviously, holding each other accountable. And those are the things that we really focus in the off season. Our players, we've got a lot of experience with our team. We've got a lot of guys who have the potential to be really good leaders, and they've proven that in the off season since last season. And we got a couple of those guys on here today. We're very fortunate to have. But I think the biggest thing that we try to accomplish is taking it day by day. Focus on that day, win that play. And, having that sense of urgency of wanting to get to the next level. And we don't know what that next level is, but we are going to continue to work, to push, to find out where we can take this program, where we can take this football team. And whatever we do when it comes to whatever could be practice, working out, training, meeting time, is giving max effort and being focused, being locked in. And every opportunity you have to become a better player, every opportunity you have to become a better team, take advantage of it because they're short. There's not many opportunities out there, and you need to make sure that when those come across, you want to make sure you maximize it and give it your best effort. But we're super excited. Like I said, we're an experienced team. We got 27 seniors returning on our roster. We got 3 fifth-year guys coming back. And I'd say essentially close to about 75% of our roster have some type of playing experience last season. And that's where we feel like, we return offensively 7 of our 11 returners come back. Our O-line returns 3 of the 5 starters. Our running backs, we return 3 of our top 5 rushers. Quarterback, our leading passer, is back. Wide receiver, once again, we return 3 of our top 5 receivers back. Paxton Scott, our leading receiver, is coming back. And defensively, Donnie Doves and that staff does a phenomenal job. We return our second leading tackler, linebacker Danny Cronin, and then our top 2 leaders in sack, Braden Mullen and Josiah Green, return for us as well. And we also return 2 Phil Steele preseason All-Ivy players in the secondary with Sean Williams and Jordan Washington. And then with our special teams, Owen Zalk, our All-Ivy kicker. It's good to have him back and have him for a couple more years. But we know that's just, hey, what you did last year, it does not matter. It's all about what you do performing coming up this season. And we know we've got to prepare day in and day out to prepare for us in order for us to have success. But we're super excited about this season.
Yeah, and for good reason. Let me talk to a couple of those players that you have with you. Jackson, you first, if I might. And let's, in terms of the season, you often hear, especially coaches say, in some ways, it's harder to repeat as a champion than it is to win it that time. We've talked about the extraordinary season you had last year, both emotionally and on the football field, and they were intertwined, certainly. But from your perspective now, as Coach said, you're returning passer, passing leader. From your perspective, what do you see as the strengths of this offense coming into this new season?
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me. But yes, I mean, we, like Coach Max said, we're very experienced. And I think especially in collegiate football, that's a very important trait to have. And especially on our offense, we have 3 of our 5 offensive linemen coming back. We have Paxton Scott, a 5th-year receiver, a lot of receivers coming back that played significant time in the season last year. And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing for us, is just to lean on our leaders and the guys that have that experience, because they've been in those moments and they've been through, again, the adversity that we went through last year. And I think if we can just lean on them and trust what we've been doing in the past, I think we're going to be all right.
Let me ask about your experience in the past and then leading into this season. We mentioned that, as Coach said, you're returning the leading passer. Dartmouth offensively has done an interesting thing the last few years, in the sense that they've been able to take 2 quarterbacks and meld their talents. There are times when you would hear observers saying, well, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't really have any. And I think Dartmouth has been so extraordinary in the ability to say, look, we have 2 guys who have a lot of talent, so we're going to figure out a way to get them both on the field during the course of the game. It's been unusual, but it's worked for you guys over the years. But I'm curious in terms of the mentality, all right, of a quarterback. The idea of, and I don't think everybody could buy into this, every quarterback, but what did it take to buy into the notion that says, okay, there are 2 of us, and we're going to split some playing time here, but it's going to work for us?
Yeah, I would say winning football games. And I mean, we, from the start, even, when I was here, it was, we were going to do what we had to do to win football games. And I think the quarterbacks bought into that and they understood that. And I think that's what helped us down the road, especially last season towards the end. And I think because we were able to buy into that and understand that this was what we had to do to win the game and play well throughout the season, we were going to do that. And each and every one of us were okay with that.
Yeah. Well, it does, it takes not only special talent that you all have, but it takes special mentality, as you said, a team mentality. And that's not always the case, but it's worked for you guys. Braden, from the defensive perspective, right? You're a veteran coming back here in terms of the leading the team. As a tackler and as a team leader. Let me ask you the same question that I asked Jackson, but from the defensive side, which is, what do you see as the strengths of this defense coming into this new season?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Jack. I think our strength, like Proc said, like Coach Max said, is definitely our experience. We're returning a lot of those starters as well on the defensive side of the ball. And that's just huge for taking it to that next step, and big for that aspect of player-led accountability, where, maybe the coaches don't see everything, but it's about players holding each other accountable in the locker room, in the classroom, on the field, keeping everybody at that same level, at that same expectation, and just continuing to set the standard every day. And the experience on both sides of the ball really allows for that envelope to be pushed into the season that we want it to be. We left some on the table last year. So looking forward to it, building every day and taking it one day at a time.
So you talked about the defense. Let me get your perspective as a defensive player about your own offense. So you practice against these guys every day. You're dealing with them every day. As you've been working, in the winter and now in the summer, about ready to start in camp, give your scouting report, if you will, on this Dartmouth offense coming into the season.
Yeah, for sure. It's a dynamic offense, and it's been nice to see the team rally behind Proc as our starting quarterback and really build his confidence, build the confidence around the entire offense. The O-line is an obvious strength. They're returning a lot of guys. All of the starters will have had experience. So that's going to be big for that side of the ball, protecting Proc, giving them some time to get it out to our receivers, and then the running back room as well. We got all sorts of backs in there that can run the ball. We're confident in every last one of them. So it's the scouting report. I'd say we're pretty confident in them. And as you were saying earlier, iron sharpens iron. So we saw that all throughout the spring, just continuing to push each other, and keeping it within the bounds of practice, but pushing each other and just working to be a better team every day.
Yeah. Jackson, same question to you. Scouting report on your defense.
Yeah, the thing that comes to my mind is just toughness. We for years have been a very tough defense to play against, and it also doesn't help that teams have to come up to Hanover, New Hampshire and play, especially when it gets cold over here. So the toughness is their number one thing, and whether that's up front, the linebackers, the coverage that's played behind. We have guys that are very intelligent and capable of doing it, but they're tough, and they're going to play every single snap to the end of the game, fourth quarter, overtime. It doesn't matter. And so, that is the biggest thing. And going back to spring ball, it's hard every single day, but that's the way you want it. Like you said, iron sharpens iron. And so, just again, leaning on those guys as well, just to get better on the offensive side of the ball. And again, just keep taking it day by day.
Yeah. Coach, let me come back to you for a second. I mentioned in the very beginning of this that the league's going to look a little bit different this year. We've got 3 new head coaches, 3 of the 8 on the field. You've been in the league for a long time. Give me your perspective on that. And I think let me ask you to focus a little bit on Coach Murphy for 30 years on the Harvard sidelines, and now all of a sudden he's not going to be there, and 2 other new coaches at Cornell and at Columbia. Your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's great for the league. It just makes it even more competitive. And all those coaches, they've been in the league. They know it. They understand it. They know the level of competition every Saturday is going to be high. They know the whole ins and outs of the recruiting aspect of it. And there's a lot of coaches in this league who worked for Coach Murphy. So they've been part of a very successful program. And but to me, it's just you've got to prepare yourself each day, because on the other side of the ball they're doing the same thing. And but it's exciting. They're all great men. They're all great coaches. And they've are going to do phenomenal things for their program, and it's a super exciting time to be a coach in the Ivy League for sure.
I want to come back to something you said about your coaching staff, and we made this observation on the air many times. If you look at that coaching lineup at Dartmouth, what always gets my immediate attention is how long so many of those men have been there at Hanover and coaches at Dartmouth. What does that say to you? First of all, how important has that been to the success of Dartmouth football? And what does it say to you as a guy who was an assistant and then became the head coach about these people and and about Dartmouth?
That's been huge. I mean, just the number of years of experience that we have on our staff from not just only being at Dartmouth, but other places in the Ivy League as well. They truly understand this league. And I think the biggest thing that has helped us be so successful is there's no egos here. You know, we've got a lot of coaches on our staff who are, you know, each position they coach have had a lot of success. But we leave egos at the door. And we all know we have a common goal, and that's to win. And but it really is nice to have those individuals. And you know, we have a couple new coaches on our staff who bring a little bit of, you know, different perspective outside the league, and I think that's important to have as well. But no, I'm very fortunate and very blessed to be with a group of men who prepare our guys day in and day out, not only be the best football player, but be the best student, but more importantly, being the best man.
Well, it's a great place to live, great place to visit. I'm a little bit sad that this year our package has you all playing Friday, November 8th down at Princeton, but we're not going to have the chance to make the trek up to Hanover, which is always one of my favorite.
We got to
trips.
renegotiate that next year, Jack.
I think we got to work on that. I agree with you entirely. So Jackson, Braden, good luck to you all coming into this season. Look forward to seeing you play, as I said, on November 8th, and ESPN will be down there. And Coach, always good to see you. And please give my best to everybody up there, and we'll look forward to connecting during the season.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you
all
for
take
having
care
us.
now. Be well.
Yep.
All right. As we move along now, we've been talking quite a bit during the course of this session about some of the changes that we're seeing in the league, and one of them, probably the highlight changer, certainly the headline, is going to be the fact that after 30 years, Coach Tim Murphy will go on the sidelines at Harvard. But it gives us a chance now to talk with new coach Andrew Orrick, who is taking over Coach Murphy, about his anticipations and what he expects to see moving forward. And we're also going to be joined by linebacker Eric Little and running back Shane McLaughlin, who is the team captain coming into the season. Coach, let me start with you, and we have to start with congratulations. I've said to Coach Murphy almost every time we chatted, as a former Yale player, I said, I love Harvard except for one day a year. Other than that, it's my other favorite place in the Ivy League. But let me ask you, and I'm going to ask you to give your sort of forecast in just a second. But I think I have to start by asking you about the idea of taking over essentially for a legend. If you look at Coach Murphy, and I've said this on the air, and I full disclosure, I'm the vice chairman of the National Football Foundation, College Football Hall of Fame. I don't have an actual vote for the Hall of Fame, although we as board members will confirm it. But I've said on the air that I fully anticipate that Coach Murphy will get inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, certainly much sooner than later. But it always raises the question, when you are the coach who is taking over for Harvard, the greatest of all time, it's a different scenario. Now, you know this league. You've coached in this league. You've played in this league. So you get it, I am sure that. But give us a sense of your feelings being the person to now pick up the baton, if you would, at Harvard.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. I know some people would look at it as like, oh, man, you got to follow a legend. But to me, having been in this league as a player and a coach, I knew what type of program he was running and the type of people he was getting in his program. So I knew I was coming into a situation where the foundation and the culture within that program was such that there wasn't like a rebuild that would need to happen. It was more, putting my own personal spin on things, but building on what he built here for 30 years. So to me, it was really, really exciting. And it's exactly what I thought it was going to be when I got the job. So it's excited to get started with these guys.
So let's look forward now, and I'll ask you to do the same thing that we've asked the other coaches, and that is to take a few minutes to give us your thoughts on the upcoming season.
Yeah, we're all really, really excited here. We have a group coming back that has played a lot of football here at Harvard. 7 returning starters on offense and 7 returning starters on defense, returning our punter. along with a lot of guys who've played a lot of snaps that weren't necessarily starters. So we have a lot of talent on this roster. And, the important thing to me when I got here was I wanted to make sure they understand the things I want to emphasize within the game of football. And that's being obsessed about the ball on offense and defense and understanding how important turnover margin is to win-loss percentage. Being the smarter football team that understands situational football and is not just out there running plays. And then being a group of guys that are going to play harder than their opponent every week. So, when I got here, that was the big emphasis, and that's what carried us through spring practice. And now these guys are training this summer, and as soon as they get back here, we're going to be emphasizing those areas again, because I think those are ways you can differentiate yourself from your opponent.
Give me your perspective, if you will, looking forward, and let's start with your offense. Okay. So again, you've seen these teams. You've been there in the league. You've seen all of these teams from your previous position at Princeton. So looking ahead, again, you haven't started practice yet, but you had the winter and the spring. Looking ahead, what do you see the strengths of this Harvard offense being?
Yeah, we have a lot of skill guys coming back who have been very productive in their time at Harvard, which gives you a lot of options. Makes it a little challenging because you got to make sure those guys everybody's getting touches. But we have Shane on here, and Shane is our captain, and is coming back as first team All-Ivy running back, and excited to get the ball in his hands. But to me, it's about the skill that we have coming back, and making sure that we are making sure those guys are getting the touches, because they're talented players that are going to make plays for us.
And the same question, but this time from the defensive perspective, what are the strengths you see coming back this year?
Yeah, so we have returning starters at all three levels coming back, along with a ton of guys who've played significant snaps here on defense. And that was one of the things I really liked about what Coach Larkey had done when I was on the outside looking in. They played a lot of guys. So you have a ton of experience on the team on defense that, they might not have been a starter, but they're playing a lot of snaps every single game. So when you have that type of depth, it helps you when you do sustain those injuries that pop up throughout the season.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about in covering the Ivy League over the years is how it's made such significant strides in terms of not just depth, but quality depth. Guys who, when a number one guy goes down, all of a sudden the next guy steps up and you're looking at him saying, this guy could be an All-Ivy player. So from the Harvard perspective, and again, and you mentioned this in the very beginning, oftentimes new coaches are taking over because the program has been struggling. But as you said, the advantage you have is you're coming in and taking over an 8-2 team that shared the title last year. So looking at that depth continuing this year, I guess maybe the question is, are you surprised at all at the depth that you do have?
Not really. I did my homework, and I knew what was here when I got here. And as I said before, Coach Murphy had done such a good job with building this program that having gone up against them in recruiting when I was at Princeton, you knew the guys that were going to Harvard, and you knew they were really good players. So you have 4 years worth of talent on a team. You better have depth. With the way that they've recruited here, that's definitely the case.
You're going to have to put a lot of that black and orange gear that you had in the drawers and start picking up some crimson things, I guess, for your attire.
Already has happened. I got the closet stocked.
Well, that's good. I always used to say to my friends that played at Princeton, I have a cousin who was a captain there, Steve Reynolds, many years ago, and I always used to say, you know what, nobody looks good in black and orange. So again, just a personal perspective here. Let me bring in both Shane and Eric here. And Shane, I'm going to start with you if I can. First of all, congratulations on being named a captain. We understand how significant for both Harvard and Yale. So some people might not know it's an election by the team at the end of that season as to who is going to be the leader. And it's our congratulations to you for being that guy here. And I also have to throw in a little bit. I'm a Shore Conference boy. I played at Point Pleasant Beach. We used to play Shore Region, which is where you played. So from that geographic perspective, I'm delighted to see a short conference kid leading Harvard. You're from looking at it now, as Coach said, returning, first team All Ivy, named captain here, but it's a year of transition. Again, you're coming off an 8-2 and championship season, which is fabulous, but it's a transition. So give us a sense of, as a player, how that has taken place. Transition from, a legendary Coach Tim Murphy to Coach Ulrich. How has that transition played out for you?
Yeah, first, thanks, Jack. It is always nice connecting with another fellow Jersey Shore native. Yeah, and to Coach Ulrich's point before, I think something special about Coach Murphy is that he was here for 30 years and found a lot of success during those years. So the foundation was there to build on top of this program. I think Coach Ulrich did a great job when he came in the winter and during our spring season. One of his approaches was really to just observe when he first got there, to see how we operate, talk to the players individually, and then assess and see where things needed to change. And I think that was very welcomed by the team. I remember when I had my first conversation with him, one of the first things he asked me was really just to tell him about myself, my background, what motivates me. And I thought, I expected to get on the call and for him to sort of give me his spiel, but the first thing he did was ask me how I'm doing, how the team's doing, and what motivates me. So I think that's just a testament to his approach during this transition. He's only been here for about half a year now, and I think me and Eric can both attest to this, but it's really just like a hand in a glove. It's a great fit.
Mm-hmm. Looking ahead then, and Coach touched on this a little bit when I was asking about strengths, but from you now, as a running back, coming back and being around these guys, what do you point to as what you think is going to be the real strengths of the offense this season?
Yeah, really no lack of talent this year. I mean, to start at the quarterback position, I think something that helped me be so successful and is often not highlighted is the fact that we had two quarterbacks who could both run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When you have sort of a dual threat quarterback, it opens things up for me to run the ball or do other things. So really, we're going to be able to use two guys this year who are both super talented. And then on our offensive line, we're returning one really key leader, Austin Gentle, at center. And I think it's really special to have, your offensive line captain to say, be a returner, right? He's sort of the guy who knows what everyone else is doing. He's a great voice and just a really tremendous leader in terms of showing the right qualities to be an offensive lineman. And then looking out wide, I think our wide receiver core is really special this year. Up and down the line, as what Coach Ulrich said before, it's going to be almost a challenge to get everybody a touch at some point during the game. And, that's not really a problem, right? That's a good thing for us. So it's really a positive outlook for the season.
Great thing for you guys. Not so great for the rest of the league, but you have so many talented guys out there. As you said, everywhere you look, you've got talent in that Harvard offense. Eric, let's talk a little bit about the defense, right? And again, Coach talked about some expectations, but how about your expectations as somebody who is a leader on this defense? What do you expect from that defense this season?
I expect complete dominance. I expect us to dominate the game at every single level, from up front to the linebacker second level, and then from the DBs, no fly zone, just flying around, making plays all over the field. We expect to be not perfect, but to give effort on every single play, and you'll see that show up on tape.
And again, you've seen, the tradition of this Harvard defense, for many years, and certainly most recent tradition is just strength at all three levels. You see that same thing coming into this season?
Yes, definitely the same thing. We're returning, like Coach Ulrich said, a lot of guys who not only started but got good minutes coming off the sideline. So they know the standard. They know how we route. They know everything that we need to do to get better and to continue to progress throughout the season.
Yeah. It's funny as covering the team, when you talk about guys coming back at all three levels, it's astonishing to me how often I say to myself, wow, that guy's back again, another season. Great for Harvard, not so great for everybody else. Let me bring in right now. Alex Vespoli of ESPN is joining us with some thoughts, questions. Alex, welcome again.
Thanks, Jack. Question for Shane. Jack touched a little bit on it about being named captain, and that's of course a very special thing when there's one singular captain. But one thing that's also notable is that you're the first offensive player who was elected captain since Ryan Fitzpatrick back in 2004. So first time in 20 years after a string of defensive players who were named captain, and that an offensive player was named, and obviously very well deserving. But what does that mean to you, and how do you take that responsibility, and how would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Great question. I think it is special being named the only captain, and I feel loved and appreciated and supported by my teammates, my coaches, and everyone in this program. But I think that something that is special about only having one captain is it actually requires you to sort of lean on a broader set of people, because, right, I can't do it all. I don't want to do it all. And people like Eric and other seniors and juniors, or even younger guys across the board, I think my role as captain has been to really be direct with them and explain to them how much I am relying on them and the team is relying on them. So it really builds a network of other leaders other than myself. And that's sort of been my approach heading into the season. I think last year we had a ton of good voices, strong voices built around our strong captain, Nate Leskovic. And I intend to sort of do the same thing and really lean on the other guys in the program.
Alex, anything else?
No, just I appreciate that answer. And how do you hope to build off of the success that you had, just as terms of on the ground that you had last year? I think you caught a lot of people by surprise by the great start and of course the great year that you had overall. And how do you try and build onto that, knowing that teams are going to be looking at you from the off season onward as somebody that they need to stop?
Yeah, I mean, definitely as captain, my perspective on the team has changed, right? I think my biggest priority is just making sure everyone else is ready. But to that end, that's going to help benefit me, right? My goal is to make sure the offensive line is on the same page and they love each other. At the same time, making sure that our quarterbacks are comfortable, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, they really help free up, my run game. And then also at tight end, at receiver, it's really the same thing. Making sure that I'm there for them as a leader, that they're prepared, they're comfortable. And then in doing that, it should sort of take care of everything that I need to get done for the season.
Thanks, guys. Good luck this season.
Alex, thank you. Hey, Coach, let me come back to you, something that Shane had mentioned, and that is the presence of two really talented quarterbacks. I mean, there are two guys who last year, each of whom were league players of the week. One of whom was a national player of the week. Sometimes coaches will look at that as saying, okay, I've got an overabundance of talent at this position because only one can play at a time. But others could look at it differently. Again, it's early. You haven't started practice yet. I understand that. But coming into practice, how do you look at that? I know that Princeton had those instances when you were there, where you had some really good, talented guys, and you wanted to sort of weave them in together at quarterback. How do you look at this situation?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of football that's going to happen before we actually step out there for a game on September 21st. But my experience at Princeton with James Perry and Bob Serace definitely helps in this situation, especially when you get to a point in training camp and you say, all right, these two guys are two of our best 11. How do we get them both on the field at the same time if needed? I'm not against doing that if that's how this thing plays out. But they both are great leaders and very talented. So, as Shane had said, it's a good position to be in when you have two guys that have that skill set.
Yeah, it's an overabundance of riches. I'm sure there are a lot of other teams around that say, ooh, I'd love to have that problem coming into the season. Well, we're looking forward to certainly Harvard football. It's Shane again. Congratulations to you, and hats off to another Jersey Shore Conference guy. Eric, also to you, and Coach. Good luck. It's I've said one of the great coaching jobs in this entire country, and I'm sure you know that. We'll have the opportunity to see Harvard, see you all playing the first game of our Ivy League package on October 11th up at Cornell, and then obviously I will offer this as my own observation, the jewel in the crown of the Ivy League package, which is Harvard Yale. Going to be up at Harvard on the 23rd, a little bit late this year, the 23rd of November. So we'll look forward to seeing you all at both of those games. So gentlemen, thank you. Good luck to all of you. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So an interesting season coming up for Harvard, a lot of talent, but somebody different on the sideline for the first time in 30 years. Our next conversation we're going to have with from the University of Pennsylvania, and head coach Ray Priori is going to join us, along with defensive back Shiloh Means, quarterback Aiden Sayin. Hopefully they'll be joining us, and we can see right now that Coach Priori is with us. Shiloh Means with us, and Aiden Sayin also with us. So, gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us here on our 2024 Ivy League Football Media Day. Coach Priori, always good to see you.
Jack, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. It's always fun when I can talk Ivy League football, spend the day doing it. And somebody says, that's not really a job. I said, no, it's not at all, as a matter of fact. So welcome to you. I'll ask you to do the same thing that I've asked each of the other coaches, which is to take a few moments and give us your thoughts on this upcoming season. In a way, it's we've described it as a state of the program address for the Penn Quakers.
Yeah, I think we, coming off of a season we had last year where we had a very, very competitive games in every game that we played, just fell short a little bit. And I think that's been the point of, as we took through into the offseason, the focus and attention to spring ball, and our kids are hungry with that. We have I think a real good squad coming back, 9 guys at 11 returning on offense, and 7 out of 11 on defense. So real excited about the group coming back, and it all starts with leadership and building it from the ground up. Both Aiden and Shiloh have been 2 key factors of why we've played very, very stout defense and been done well in the past year. So excited to get started. Some new staff members joining on, some staff things in the off season, but excited that it's a week away.
All right, and taking a look at that upcoming season, what would your thoughts be about? Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, the strengths that the offense will be returning this season.
Well, you start with Aiden, okay, in the quarterback position, young man who's now will go into 23 starts, okay, under his belt, 27 starts, let me put it that way. Sorry, put it the other way around. And so Aiden's played a lot of football with us, which we're real excited about. We bring back Malachi Hosley, our tailback, who was an Ivy League Rookie of the Year last year, first team all league, and getting a lot of accolades coming in the backfield, key components out being able to run the football. And then I think Aiden, with our wide receiver core, which I think is maybe the strength of the offense, and tight ends coming back, we had a plethora of young men that are really good with great experience. So I've heard coaches talking about it. A lot of depth is a real key component of having success and weather injuries and stuff during the course of the year.
And how do you see the depth in the offense?
And you mean the defense, or just the offense?
Well, the offense. You talk to receivers. You talk about. We often talks about offensive line and the depth that you need. And you and I've had this conversation before in the last several years at the Ivy League. We're seeing not just building depth, but quality depth. What are you seeing for your offensive line here?
Yeah, well, that probably is our biggest hole to fill, because we have 3 guys returning on that side. We're still trying to fill those open spots. But we had a really good 2 young classes coming in. We graduated a couple guys in that group, and I think it's a combination of things, Jack. To be honest with you, we've been always a team that has very competitive young men up front. We surround them with some really talented kids and quarterbacks that can move and spread it. And the world today is such a spread out game. So it's a different type of lineman that you go into. It's not the I formation and line up in 3 tight ends and run the football anymore. So gotta be versatile in what you're trying to do. And then on the defensive side, with Shiloh coming back in the secondary, got a lot of all the experience back there with him. Our 3 linebackers are all starters return. So we're excited about that level. And 3 of the 4 guys up front. We do lose some key components in there in a defense that was rated and ranked nationally in many different categories. And I guess as alluded to earlier, took teams right down to the stretch. And I just think we just gotta find a way just to win the little battles that are so important. And that's all in the detail. And our kids have been focused on that since the end of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned last year 6-4 record, but there were so many close games that could easily have turned around. And it's essentially we talk about the strength of the Ivy League, and for how many years now we've gone into the next to last game of the season, and so many teams have been in that position, right, to grab a share of that title.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And we felt like that in every game, triple overtime loss to Harvard. I mean, we had our opportunities, and that's the bottom line, is be in position at the end of the game to be there to win it. We just got to finish the deal. And the game against Harvard, last minute against Brown. So we were there, and I think our kids are hungry of it. They understand it. And again, I think it's about being competitive in everything we're doing, off the field, on the field. And I'm just excited to get started, next week.
Let's talk a little bit with your players here. Aiden, I want to start with you if I can. As Coach mentioned, you had an outstanding year last year, top 10 in the FCS in 3 or 4 different categories. So, and you've 27 starts. I mean, that's a big deal in this league. You can say a lot of leagues will say we're quarterback driven. I think it's very accurate when you talk about the Ivy League being quarterback driven. So coming into this season now, what are your expectations, both personally and for the offense?
Hi, Jack. Thanks for hosting us today. Great to see you. Going into this season, a little disappointing last year, obviously 6-4. Couldn't get it done in close games. But this year, I mean, it's Ivy League or bust for me, especially a lot of these upperclassmen know it too, right? We've been close for the past few years. We just have to get over that hump. So coming in, that's the expectation.
Yeah. And if you give your own scouting report, Coach gave us his, but give us yours from the quarterback, your scouting report about this Penn offense and what other teams in the league need to be worried about.
I think we'll be incredibly versatile this season. We have talent at every position, and we have depth at every position as well. So being able to switch guys in here and there whenever people are tired and keep that speed going, be able to stay on defenses, not let them, rest up and be able to be settled on the field, keeping them on their toes. I think is what's really going to help us this year.
Shiloh, let's talk about the defense if we can. And Coach mentioned some of the things here, some of the strengths, certainly you coming back as an all-Ivy performer. But as you look ahead at this defense and what you've been able to do during the winter and the spring and even in the summertime as you're leading into practice, how do you see this defense? What do you see the strengths of this defense being coming into the new season?
Well, thanks for having us, Jack. I think the strengths of our defense this year, I spent a little time away during the spring just to keep my last season for this upcoming fall. But from what I know about the players, what I know about, staying, talking to the guys is I think some people are going to have some doubts in our secondary, which, just because we don't have that experience back there that people may expect, like kind of what Coach P was talking about. But I think, with my leadership, Julian Talley's leadership back there, the other guys, at the corner position, I think we'll be just fine there. So that might end up being a strength just because we'll be bringing each other along there. And of course, our D line too. Like we've got some experience there, but we got big, strong, fast guys that are hungry too. And same thing with the linebackers. I think just our defense as a whole is going to be a strength, and I wouldn't doubt or nitpick any of the players or positions.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to both of you and Coach in a minute, but we do have some of our media folks who would like to join in with the conversation. Let's start with Glenn Papazian, who's joining us from Philly College Sports. Glenn, welcome.
Thank you, Jack. And question I have, one for Coach, is Ray, what is it about this team that you expect to be the building blocks for this upcoming season?
The building blocks for this season. I think it's, again, I think Aiden might have said it earlier, and that is just I think our kids just know what they need to do. Okay, I think they're very, very focused, grounded, and extremely hungry right now. So I think you take the mindset, being hungry, and I think with some really talented leaders in the group, I think that's going to be sort of like our foundation. And I think we just got to take it one practice at a time. And I think the key to it is we got to be competitive at everything we do. Okay, we got to be competitive every drill that we're into and stay that competitive drive all the way through. And more so than anything else, I keep on saying it back to the guys that every single snap matters. Okay, the attention to detail on every snap, securing the ball. If there's one statistic, okay, that drives coaches crazy, or both giveaways and takeaways, right? You need to take the ball away. That's what Shiloh's job is. And we got to get the picks and the fumbles and that stuff. And then we got to protect the ball in the offense. And the team that does that the best, I don't care what sport you're in, turnovers will be fundamental to the success. So I just think the building blocks for this team is take one day at a time, secure the ball, and just play as one. I think it's going to be the power of the pack, if you wish, than any sole one person doing it. We just stay with that. I think we'll have good progress and a good year.
And question for Aiden here, that you had some good young talent emerge last season. How much will they help you as the quarterback, and how much are they going to help you as the team as they emerge and hopefully keep getting better?
Yes. Hey, Glenn, thanks for coming on, having some questions for us. Yeah, so we've got a lot of young talent all around. I'm super excited to see what they can do this year. Some guys who got to play last year, some who didn't. But in terms of adding something as well as their talent is leadership from a young position has been great this summer. We have a bunch of guys back, people especially the underclassmen working, jobs on campus so they can stay here throughout the summer, lift with the older guys, build that chemistry, build that leadership as well, has been great for us. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do this year.
And how much have you worked with players like Jared Richardson and Malachi Hosley as they emerged last season? How much have you worked with them, and you looking forward to working with them during the season?
Yep. I mean, they've been here all summer with me as well. A lot of guys have internships or they're working jobs on campus, like I was saying. So we've been here working together, grinding, lifting, throwing, running. So I'm excited for what we can do now.
And Shiloh, what have you learned from some of those players that came before you? Ivy League defensive players. How much have you learned, and have they taught you one up to where you believe you're ready to lead?
Hey, can you say that last part one more time? I kind of cut out.
Yeah. I was going to have you learned from some of those players that came before you? How much, those mentors, how much have you learned and now put you in a position to be ready to lead this defense?
So I think I worked pretty closely with Jaden Key the past couple years, and we had this we called it like a big brother my freshman year coming in, and I would just text him, ask him a bunch of questions that were, now looking back, are super simple, but he kind of nurtured my my look of the game, working with Coach Benson too, and how to study film, look at the plays, and understand what's going on, not just in my position but around me. And I think that just trickled down from him to me to even Tally, Julian Tally, because it's kind of just a standard of that being a safety on our defense. You have to be the quarterback, and if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know at least what the other people around you are doing, then you can't really be successful in that position. So I think just being around, I just use Jaden because we worked pretty closely together as an example. And then even like Melvin last year, and then Kendra Smith, just spending time with those guys and just building that relationship. It's just going to have to keep going down throughout the years. And that's how we remain successful.
Thank you.
Glenn, thanks. Joe Torti from ESPN is with us and has some questions. Joe, welcome.
Jack, thanks. And guys, great to be with you today. Coach, Aiden touched on it, and I wanted to ask you about it. You got great production offensively at the skill positions from the young guys, but he also talked about there's a couple guys that are part of the team this year that didn't get to do much last year with Juice Stokes and Justin Cayenne's back. Given that you have a new offensive coordinator, new offense, what's the transition been like, and how do you keep all those talented mouths fed?
Yeah, well, thanks, Joe. Good to hear from you. Yeah, I think that was so important in trying to select someone to replace Dan Swanstrom as our coordinator, to have that sort of versatility and breadth and knowledge and experience and explosiveness. So to your point is we and I think Aiden said it earlier, we have a lot of talent. You mentioned a couple of guys that were injured last year that we bring back in. It's how do you put them all in concert together in personnel groupings and get the best 11 guys on the field at the right time is going to be is a good problem to have. Okay, when you have that much sort of talent to work with, and I think it's just taking our staff, and they worked hard in the springtime and blending that stuff together to the package, and a lot of the things that we're doing. Football is similar from package to package, but now it's how to orchestrate it, and then how do we present it and bring out that finished product, and that's obviously Aiden's job and the guys just to be great studies, continue along that path, and then really execute the plan. Sometimes we as coaches we want to overcomplicate the game. It's a simple game. Okay, you got to catch, you got to run, protect the ball, you got to tackle, and do the fundamentals real well. I think if we can continue down that track, I think some good things ahead.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Joe. Hey, Coach, let me come back to something. And based on the fact that you do have a new offensive coordinator here, as you said, Dan Swanstrom now has moved on to his own head coaching job here in the Ivy League. But with the new offensive coordinator, should we expect to see a different look at all to this Penn offense?
Sure. I mean, everybody has their spin of it and how they do it. Again, Greg Camara, our new coordinator, comes from Johns Hopkins, where he's the head coach for the last 5 years, and they've all studied under each other. Both Dan and a good personal friend of mine, Jim Margraf, who has passed long time head coach at Johns Hopkins and whatnot, and just love the mindset that Greg brings to it, and the ability to not just bring an offense with him, but a mindset. There's a gentleman who was a head coach for the last 5 years, so he's run the ship. He's been behind the helm from that perspective. And what I've seen so far, and obviously through spring football, is the relationships with all of our staff and blending on in, because I think that's so important. Part of it is how they mesh in and blend. So are there new things? Obviously, new things, new approaches, new concepts in the way to attack it. So I think it's the key things are playing fast, playing smart, and as I keep on saying, let's score some points. And if you go back and you look at what Greg was able to do down in Johns Hopkins, they had a lot of points for a lot of years. So hopefully we can bring that luck with them. Bring it to Philly.
Let's stay with that for 1 second. And Shiloh, I would come to you. Shiloh, give me a scouting report on your offense, on Penn's offense. What would you say about it?
It's a great question. I didn't get to watch too much of our offense, but I do know, like we were talking about earlier, we have weapons, we have speed, and we have a good O-line.
It's a pretty good recipe for success, I would imagine, if you're an offensive player, right? And Aiden, same question to you. A scouting report on your defense coming in the season?
Yeah, so our defense, just tenacious and aggressive running the ball. I think that's the biggest thing for them, is they're always around the ball. 11 hats are pursuing at all times. So I think that's the scouting report for them.
Yeah. Coach, the last question for you, if I can. You've been in this league a long time. We have 3 new head coaches on the sidelines this year, which is, when you think of that, 3 of the 8 teams are going to have new people there once the kickoff takes place on the 21st. Again, from your perspective as a guy who's been here for so long, how's that going to look? How's that going to feel, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's change happens. I was the new kid on the block, but now went to Columbia and there. But you you lose some legends, obviously, within the league, right? And I think everybody has had experience within the league who are on the new coaches that are back in. So it's a great flavor. They understand it, understand the operations, the recruiting of it there. I think what makes our league very unique is that you do have longevity on most staffs. Okay, guys have been in those roles there. We know each other inside and out, and love Donnie Dobes up there up at Dartmouth and the gang across the board. So there's not many secrets going by. It's now just trying to find point in the games. That's why, again, you say I've been in the league in a while. Once upon a time, there was the up and the down part of the league. Now everything is in the middle. Every week is an absolute battle. You have outstanding coaches from top to bottom, from head coaches to assistants. We're able to recruit some of the best kids that are out there in the country at our level, people who have opportunity, like these two young men here and others that have been on the call today. They've had ability to play higher level, perhaps, but choose the league for various reasons and opportunities. And so we're blessed to be able to coach these young men. But I just think it's going to be just the sort of the new same chapter, same book, just a different chapter, right? I just think it's going to be moving on, and obviously wish Tim all the best.
I said one last question. I actually have one last question. Ties into what you said, and I'd characterize this on the air, covering this for the last number of years, but certainly most recently characterize that not just parity, but quality parity in this league. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes parity means you just average across the board.
Yeah.
No, it's not that at all. I mean, you going in week in and week out, as I said before, the talent level of the quarterbacks, the receivers you got to play against, the defensive linemen that you got to stop up front, and the linebacker. I mean, just player after player that we're able to recruit such a high level of a student, because it's very, very attractive. We're selling kids not on NIL deals in the short term. We're talking about lifelong NIL deals. Okay, now you just look at in the broad picture that for the next 40 years of their life, and that's the attraction. That's why these two young men are here, with the desire, however, to play at the next level. As we see so many of our young men that get the opportunity to play at the next level, which is great, and celebrate that next step. But I think as you said, I just think the league through my years has just gotten better and better, and this raised the level of competition, each year. So
yeah, and right, by any metric you want to utilize, the league has continued to get better, and it's because of guys like this. So Aiden, Shiloh, thanks very much, guys, for spending some time with us. Well, good luck this season. We'll look forward to watching you. And Coach, always a pleasure to talk with you. We'll come. I think ESPN is coming to Franklin Field on Friday, October 25th. Yale will be in town, so we'll look forward to seeing you all then.
You betcha.
All right. You all be well. Take care now.
Thank you,
Jack.
All right. Folks from the University of Pennsylvania, which brings us to Princeton University. We're going to be joined by head coach Bob Surace, also by offensive lineman Nicholas Hilliard and defensive lineman Colin Taylor. So hopefully will be joining us soon. Coach Surace, I can see, is just joining us now. So we'll get him and a couple of the players on board. In just a few moments, we can continue our conversation here about the 2024 Ivy League football season. And both of the players are indeed with us, Nicholas Hilliard and Colin Taylor. And Coach Bob Surace with us now. Coach, always good to see you.
Great to see you, Jack. How you doing?
We are doing well, thank you. It's almost the start of the college football season. How could we not be doing well, right? So let's welcome to the guys. Welcome to you as always. Let's start off with a kind of a state of the program address from you. We've asked each of the questions. Take a couple minutes and give us your thoughts as you move forward this season.
Yeah, no, it's, you start every year, the season ends, and you wrap it up in the morning, the next morning, and then you have a blank slate. And it's so much fun seeing the development of players. We went from being a relatively inexperienced team, it's the least number of seniors I've had last year, to being a team that is up there with the COVID years, the most seniors. And the two guys we have here are two guys that have been stalwarts for us for a long time. So it went through spring. It made, some of the errors you typically have in the spring, we made less of them, and we were able to expand some concepts on offense and defense with a veteran group, and that was exciting.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember you commenting and we commenting on the air about the fact that for so many years Princeton had these great super senior classes, and then all of a sudden last year the numbers weren't there. And as you said, now you're kind of back, bringing a bunch of veterans back and older players back. Let's take a look at both sides of the ball, and we'll start with the offense. So, having gone through the winter and the spring, and the guys working out in the summer, and just being a couple of days away from opening camp, what would you look at as what you believe will be the strengths of this offense coming into this new season?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of depth. We went in the year before having to replace, our receiving core, our tight end, and these were 3- and 4-year starters. Most of our offensive line, our running backs. We go into this year and every one of those guys is returning, but our quarterback and our left tackle. And unfortunately, our left tackle missed the majority of the season. So we actually had young guys do a great job stepping up for him. So it's really only one position on the offense. It's obviously the quarterback, and a key one that doesn't have starting experience. And it's created a great competition. The young guys are pushing the veteran guys, and that piece has been a really good one.
Are you comfortable? Oftentimes coaches will lose somebody like Blake Stenstrom, who was a multi-year starter, not just great football talent, but a great leader for you. And sometimes coaches will say, well, we got a lot of guys who are competing for that position. That might also mean we don't really have the guy within that group, or at least we haven't identified him yet. As you look at this quarterback group, are you comfortable that somewhere within that group you will have the guy?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had, last year was the first time we had a returning quarterback since 2015. So you think about that. And it really
and yet you're talking about all Ivy quarterbacks in that. It's not as if you didn't have talent
really
coming
good
back.
Ones. And my first year when James Perry and some others, we built the program, Steve Herbert, who's still here, on competition. And it's brought out the best in our players. And man, the spring was exciting because the 3 veteran quarterbacks all played at a level higher than they had previously in their careers. So, it'll be exciting to see how it shapes up throughout camp. But, I think they're all looking forward to the competition. They support each other. It's a strong room there. And it'll be, until you play games, they're untested, and that's great because they'll have a little chip on their shoulder.
How about from the defensive perspective? You got to start off noting that you lost 2 some all-time linebacker players, and Liam Johnson and Ozzie Nicholas. I mean, these guys are first-team All-Ivies, guys who were in the mix for defensive players of the year. I mean, these are stalwarts on the defense, and that's hard to lose. So, but understanding that, what are you looking at for the defense coming back this year?
Yeah, and we lost Will Perez. They were the only 3 starters, and Will would have been a first-team All-Ivy guy if he didn't miss the last 4 games. So, we've gotten everywhere else around them. It's the exact opposite from the year before, where it was a wholesale change. The biggest piece, and we had our staff meeting this morning, testing the linebackers' communication in camp. So when we open up versus Lehigh, their confidence, their ability to communicate and lead is there. I thought we did a good job in the spring putting them to the test. They stepped up. Obviously, you're talking about 2 of the better inside linebackers in probably since Dave Patterson, and we've had some great ones in the interim. But they've really, the young guys and the new guys have taken it upon themselves to do a great job filling their shoes.
Yeah. Let me bring the guys into the conversation here if we can, and get some of their perspectives on things. Colin, I'll start with you. And we were talking with Coach about, what's the defense going to look like coming up this season? And, you have to start with who's not going to be there. Although coaches will always say, look, we can only coach the guys that are here. So do we miss them? Absolutely. but we got to move forward. So moving forward, how do you see this defense coming into play this season?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Jack, and I appreciate you having me on today. So like Coach said, it's like while we're losing these great players, it's, you're moving on to focusing to this season, and we know guys are hungry. We know guys are ready to step up. Like while replacing Liam and Ozzie and Will Perez are huge roles to fill, we have guys that have been working really hard from the moment the season ended and even all of last season to take on those roles. A guy like Marcos Carano, you're gonna see be incredible this season playing the Sam position. But as well, we also know that we have a lot back at our other positions on the defensive line and defensive backs. So that also kind of means we do have a lot of experience this year, which will also be very valuable for us. And then kind of just maintaining that standard that has been set for us, at least in my time and before, of running the ball, playing aggressive, communicating well. We're going to continue to do that, work well as a unit all throughout camp, and make sure we're ready for the season.
Yeah. And Nicholas, same question to you from the offensive side. Clearly, you have to replace an extraordinarily talented quarterback and leader. Understanding that, how are you looking at this offense, how it's progressed, and what do you expect of it this coming season?
Yes, sir. First of all, Jack, thank you for having us on. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I think looking at our offense, I wouldn't get too held up on losing Blake. Blake was a great quarterback. Jalen Travis, they were both great players, but I believe that the guys we have in this room are special. And I do believe that while Hippa isn't Blake, Hippa's a great guy in and of himself. And I believe that as a leader, he'll be able to step in and maybe not fill the same shoes as Blake, leaving as a 2-year starter and as a senior. But I think that we as a team can ultimately rally around him. And I don't think there'll be anything lost there.
Yeah. And it's interesting, and Coach had commented on this. And not only the quarterback position, it's your wide receiver position, but I think especially the quarterback position. It hasn't just been next man up, it's been next man up. Oh, and by the way, he's become an all Ivy quality player, which says a lot about your depth. So let me ask you to do this. And Nicholas, I'll stay with you, then I'll come to Colin with the same question. Let me ask you, Nicholas, to give me the scouting report on the Princeton defense this year. What would you say about it?
I think the Princeton defense is going to be a great one this year in the league. I believe that they're a tenacious group of guys. I think they fly around. I think ultimately, and I think one of the most important things is they have fun being on the field with each other as brothers. I believe that a group of as strong as they are, with the collaboration and teamwork that they've shown that I've seen not only in film, but also just playing against them every single day, I believe they'll be a great defense in this league for this year.
Colin, how about you? Give me a scouting report on the other side of the ball.
They're great, Jack. They're incredibly fast. They're powerful up front. They always finish their plays. They test us in practice. We go back and forth, but I have all the confidence in the world in them this season.
Yeah. And Coach, you and I, we talked at a basketball game this season. Came down to see the Yale Princeton game. And we talked about the fact that you are now the dean of the Ivy League football coaches. And I'm curious as to, what do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm very grateful, right? And I heard the tail end of what Ray said, and and he complimented assistant coaches. Ray's been in this league a lot longer than I have, just given his extraordinary career as an assistant coach. Steve Urbit, who's been by my side and got here at Princeton a year before I came as a player, that way. We have these great assistant coaches who have just thrived. A couple of guys who worked for us are now head coaches in this league. So you're grateful because, A, I'm doing it at a place I love. I'm doing it at a league that I enjoy, and I'm surrounded by these young men that are just incredible. And not every head coach, there's only 8 of these jobs, right? And there's not many other jobs like this, where you're not only getting to do what you love, but you're getting to do it with people you just enjoy being around and seeing their growth and seeing them develop. And both, Nick and Colin are great examples of that and how far they've come. You don't step on the field right away, usually as an O lineman or D lineman. You got to put a lot of hard work in, and it takes time. And the two of them have been just shining examples for the rest of the team in terms of how they stack their days. So I love it. I love each day. I love coming to work. And I love the people that I'm surrounded by. They energize me. in so many ways. So it does mean I'm old.
Yeah.
The gray hairs. When we talked 15 years ago, my hair wasn't so gray, but it suddenly turned a little grayer. It's certainly not from the players. It's
That's
just
what
from the
happens
people.
with that job. You know, it's funny you say that. It doesn't seem to me that long ago that you were one of the new young guys on the sideline. So when you, with that in mind, when you guys line up against Harvard and you look across the sideline, and it's not Tim Murphy, you know, and it's not Dave Archer, you know, and you know Al Bagnoli stepped away the year before at Columbia. You know, what goes through your mind with these changes that are taking place?
Yeah, and tragically, Buddy, you know, a year
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
and
yep.
you know, Dartmouth and Sammy's done a great job and earned, you know, certainly earned going from intern to full time up there at Dartmouth. You know, change happens at the rest of the world in their leagues way quicker than this, right? You think about it, and you know, Tony Reno and I, both our sons went through a recruiting process, but my son, when he narrowed it down to 12 his junior year, not one coach, not one school, I should say, retained their head coach, or he's a quarterback, their offensive coordinator / quarterback coach. All 12 had changes. That's unusual. And the reason we're bringing it up, it's so unusual in our league, because if you get to this position, you enjoy being around and you realize what your values are. You know, you're around a place where you're surrounded by great people, high achievers. You can make an impact, right? Somebody made an impact on me and you, and it was probably a coach at some point, you know, back then. That if I can do the same thing, that's, you know, fulfilling in our lives that way. And, you know, other than the one day a year we get to compete against each other, you know, I worked with James dozen hours a day for 6 years. Andy, it was probably 7 or 8 years. These are friends. And the relationships with others through our sons, Tony Reno and I, you develop these friendships over time. And, you know, it's sad. Like, I became really close with Al. It's sad to see him go, but, you know, look, you know, Coach Poppy, John's going to do a great job there. And, you know, that's part of sports, right? Is adapting and dealing with change. And look, the athletic directors in this league are terrific. They hire outstanding people, and they hire people that are experts in this field.
And I think you're absolutely right when you in your comment about the absence of that churning, constant change says an awful lot about who we are as a league. You know, who we are as coaches, who we are as the 8 institutions, and how we look at this sport. And I think that's a great comment about that. Alex Vespoli is back with us from ESPN. Alex, welcome back again.
Thanks, Jack. I just had a question for both Nicholas and Colin. The last few years, Princeton has very rightfully so been either the favorite or one of the preseason favorites in the Ivy League. This year, maybe a little bit under the radar, picked 4th in the league. What are your thoughts on being in that position? And has there been any discussion about that, or maybe any sorts of motivation to say, hey, don't forget about Princeton?
Colin,
Yeah,
why
I
don't
can
you
start
jump
with
in?
this.
Yeah, Colin, jump in first, and Nick, you can jump in.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. I think we kind of focus on every season as an individual season, and we want to be the best that we can be as a team. So we're highly motivated every single day, working hard to achieve our goals, which is to win the Ivy League. But you know, we don't necessarily think of this season as separate or together of other seasons. We kind of think of this as our own team, and we're ready to work with this team to do the best that we can.
Nick, what do you think?
First of all, Alex, thank you for the question. You know, Coach Riggs loves to tell us the same saying, you know, the glass isn't half full or half empty, it's just half. So, you know, the reality of the world, it is what it is. And ultimately, if we have the guys in our locker room and we focus on the things that we can control, I believe that we'll have a season that is more indicative of what we believe the outcome to be.
Thanks to you both, and Colin, great to see a fellow Merrimack Valley native. You know, it's such a high spot there here on this call on this day here for Princeton.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Great to hear from you.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Colin, Nick, it's a pleasure. Coach, it's always good to talk with you. Always enjoy it. We're going to get to see you, the Princeton Tigers, twice, as a matter of fact, in our the ESPN package. this year. So we're looking forward to coming down and visit with you all. So you all be well. Good luck coming up this season, and we will see you very soon.
Yep. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Take care.
Thanks,
now.
Jack.
All right, from the Princeton Tigers brings us to our last conversation. Going to be with the Yale Bulldogs, and should have any minute now. Head coach Tony Reno joining us, along with linebacker Dean Schaefer. Tight end Rye Yates is going to be joining us also. So let's see if we can get everybody on board that conversation. Coach Reno is with us now. And let's see, we'll have the two players joining us, Dean Schaefer, Rye Yates, joining us now also. All right, so gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Coach, always good to see you.
Great seeing you, Jack. Thanks for having us on. And
Good.
once again, I want to thank everyone at the Ivy League office for putting this on. And, it's a great day for Ivy League football. And I know I join 7 other schools and saying we just can't wait to get started.
Yeah, well, we've had some wonderful seasons most recently, and Yale has certainly been a big part of it. Back-to-back Ivy totals 3 of the last 4 years. As we've mentioned a number of times, the great quality parity of this league, where so often now we're coming into that last week of the season, and it almost feels like everybody still has a shot at the title, and sometimes it's quite literally almost that. So certainly it's been great establishing and continuing the Ivy League traditions here with ESPN. So, Coach, I will start with you with the same thing I've asked each of the other coaches to do so far, and that's to give us your kind of state of the program, address your thoughts coming into the new season.
Sure, Jack, and thanks for doing so. I think we're really fortunate here at Yale, and I think it starts from the top all the way down, and from President Salve, who was with us for my first 11 years, and we're really excited about President McInnes coming in, and and we've got such great leadership at the top, and our Dean of Admissions Jeremiah Quinlan, and our Director of Athletics Vicki Chun, and Anne-Marie Guglieri, who really spearheads the day-to-day. And I think a big part of having a successful football program is having an amazing community. And it takes, everybody. It takes everyone from the top down to be aligned and, providing a great opportunity for your student athletes. And we just have that here at Yale. We're really fortunate. And, from that point forward, I think we've got an amazing group of alumni, and ESPN just came out with the top 10 football programs of all time, the winningest football programs of all time, and Yale was number 7. So that's FBS, FCS. And when you put that in perspective, of what we have and where we are as a football family, I think it speaks volumes of how important football here is at Yale. And I'm just very fortunate to be the head coach, and from our president all the way through our alumni, we've got such a great group in our community to help really grow and develop these young men.
Looking forward to this season, and I mentioned in the introduction the great success that Yale has had. We know about in the past, but certainly most recently. Back-to-back titles, 3 out of 4. And oftentimes you'll hear both players and coaches, and especially coaches, say that sometimes it's harder to repeat than it is to win that first one. Now we're looking at Yale repeating and repeating yet again. How do you deal with that, or do you deal with that at all with your team as you're preparing for this new season?
I think, Jack, in 2014, our captain, Deion Randall, and I were talking about legacy and how do you continue to build on the amazing legacy of Yale. And Deion came up with a great idea to start numbering our teams. And, we were the first team in the country to do so. And that was the 142nd team at Yale. This year, we're the 151st team at Yale. So, every season has a life and history of its own. And, I'm just excited to continue to write this one with Team 151.
Let's look ahead for a moment. Coming into the season again, you've got winter, spring, guys working out in the summer, about to open up fall camp. So, from the offensive side of the ball, what do you see as the strengths that you anticipate for this team?
I just think that, the ability for our team to continue to live in each moment. We talk a lot about winning moments here, and I think the importance of that is the guys to understand that it's going to take everyone on the offense, everyone on the defense to continue to grow and develop. And I was really happy with what this team's done from the winter on, and had a great winter, had a really good spring, and an amazing summer. We had more players here this summer than we've ever had, and I think that says something for a team like us that puts such a precedent and priority on it. And a lot of those guys, have continued to grow, and just excited to see, our offense continue to grow and be able to be dynamic and be able to attack people from sideline to sideline and, end zone to end zone.
I'm sure that anybody who's watching this and anybody who's a fan of Yale football is going to would want to ask, if they had the opportunity to ask you a question, they'd say, all right, Nolan Grooms, 2-time Ivy League Player of the Year. Just, fun to watch as somebody who is, covered the Ivy League. Really fun to watch as somebody who played at Yale previously, but he's not there anymore. And so, again, you haven't started camp yet. So I suspect you don't have the answers, but give us a sense of the group, the incoming quarterback group here, and what you see might develop from that group.
Yeah, we've got 4 great guys. We bring in a freshman, and we've got 3 guys returning, and I was really excited about the growth they made this spring and the camaraderie they have together, and how they're all trying to make each other better. And all of them were here this summer. So just excited to see them compete. And I think one of the things that, is really important at that position is, guys being able to compete, and then, someone being able to, win the team. And I think that happened. It's happened every year since I've been here, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen again this preseason.
And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, coming into the season, again, the strengths that you anticipate would be what?
I just think we've got some guys that, have in a variety of roles been able to, positively affect the game for us, in our front, in our linebacker position, in our secondary. We've got a lot of experience in areas that guys have, been, whether they've been starters or they've been guys who've been substitutional players, and have been big parts of our success in the last, 3 years. Some of them 4 years as 5th-year guys this year. So, I think the strength of our defense is our ability to, play together. I think our guys play really well together, and I saw it this spring, and, just excited about how much better we can get. I think there's a high ceiling for us as a team, and the question is, are we going to be able to get there? And that's the fun of this whole thing. The fun of being able to grow and develop a football team.
Dean, let me talk with you a little bit, and I'm going to start with congratulating you on being named a Yale captain. We talked about this during the course of the years that, Harvard and Yale, the distinction of saying, here's how we're going to choose our captain. The team is going to choose, and they're going to vote. And they're going to vote at the end of the season who is going to lead them now through the off season and into the upcoming football season. And that's an enormous honor. And it's, from somebody who played at Yale, I can underscore what an enormous honor that is for you. What were your thoughts when that was announced and said, all right, team 151, new captain, Dean Schaefer?
Well, first, Jack, thanks for the kind words. I'm not sure if I deserve those, but I think immediately you're humbled by the fact that you were voted by guys that you respect of the utmost, like guys like Rye, senior class, great young guys in our team. I hold them to such a high regard in my mind, and to know that I was chosen to kind of lead the team and Team 151 is it's a great honor. It's an honor I respect very highly, and I treat very seriously. So as kind of we're rolling into the season here, I'm excited to get rolling with the guys, just taking it day by day.
Let me ask you a question similar to what I asked Coach Reno, and that is coming off of a championship season, coming off of 2 championship seasons, in terms of how you're preparing, what you talk about. When I played in my 4 years, we had 2 championship seasons during those 4 years. And, coming off of one, in many ways, it kind of felt different as opposed to coming into one where you hadn't won the year before. So I'm curious, from your position as a leader, is that something you spend a lot of time talking about, or is that something that just maybe doesn't necessarily, it's there, but not necessarily in the forefront of conversations with teammates?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's something we identified early on, right? Our first day back for the spring semester was, hey, coming off 2 championships. Those are great things that we had done in the past, but that's exactly what they are. They're great things we did in the past. And what we've done in the past doesn't earn us a single play. It doesn't earn us a single win in this coming season. So the important thing for 151 that we quickly identified was we need to make something of our own. The guys that made 149, and the guys that made 150 are no longer here. So to try and build on what once was is just simply irrational because they're not here anymore, right? And, we have great guys that have played a lot of great football for us, and a lot of great leaders are on the team. And, the team I will give credit to has just immediately forgotten of the past and tried to invest everything they have into 151 and build something new and something great. So as we kind of move forward, heading into camp, I'm looking forward to see how can we further build upon that identity we've created in 151.
Yeah. So, Rye, your perspective then from the offensive side of the ball, you can't look ahead without, I think, at least mentioning guys that have been lost that are not going to be there. I mentioned Nolan Groom's 2-time Player of the Year. You have a couple of guys, drafted in the other guys signing in the NFL, and that's a pretty strong indicator of what the quality of that offensive unit was last year. Now looking forward to it, what do you see as a carryover from last year and the new guys stepping up to continue that?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for having us on. As you mentioned, we had a lot of great players last year that will no longer be on the team this year. But at the same time, we have a lot of young guys stepping up, a lot of older guys that have experience that'll step into those roles. And I think they'll do a phenomenal job. We have a very talented group, a group that has gotten to learn from and play alongside some very talented players in the past. And I think all of those lessons will translate over to this season, and our offense will move seamlessly ahead.
Media being what it is, they tend to look at certain positions, and one of them is always quarterback. And so, as I said to Coach Reno, I'm sure the first question I'm sure you've heard it, and we'll continue to hear it until the opening game is, okay, who's going to be taking snaps this year? I don't know that you have that answer yet, but talk a little bit in terms of the guys you've been working with and the types of skills and talents that they so far have brought to the mix.
Sure. As Coach Reno mentioned, we have a great group of 4 guys that are all very talented and all very hungry. They push each other, they push us. And so it's been great to work with all of them throughout the summer, running routes, getting timing down. I think they all bring something different to the table, but at the same time, they have a baseline level of strength as a quarterback that I think all of them could contribute. And no matter who it is, at the end of the day, they'll be able to push this offense forward.
Dean, I want to ask you to do something I've asked some of the other players to do this year, and that is for you to give me the scouting report on the Yale offense, what you anticipate from strengths and weaknesses. What would it be?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, they play together as one. That's something that we pride ourselves here at Yale. It's when you got 11 guys that are willing to play for each other, it's a dangerous sight. So we got dynamic quarterbacks leading the group. We got, a plethora of running backs that can carry the rock. We're big up front. We got some dangerous guys outside that are, like I said, every position at every level is willing to play for the guy next to him. So that's what's most important to us. Regardless of who's out there, it's gonna be a good one.
Well, I love interviewing Ivy League football players who very easily use the word plethora, and entirely appropriately in their discussion of football players. Right, same question to you. Give me a scouting report on the Yale defense coming in the season.
Yeah, our defense is going to fly around. Similar to what Dean said about the offense, we have a group of guys that loves each other and are going to do everything they can to take care of their brother out on that field. And we have a group of guys top to bottom who's going to fly around and give it their all for the guy next to him. I'm excited to watch him play from the offensive side of the ball. Not so much to go against him in practice, but it'll make us better.
Yeah. Coach, I'm going to come back to you because we mentioned at the very beginning that this is going to be a season of change in many ways for the Ivy League. 3 brand new head coaches of the 8. One of the things that has always been a hallmark, I think, of the Ivy League and its traditions has been a sense of constancy. There are always going to be changes, but you look at the time that you now have been at Yale. We just talked with Coach Surace, and I said to him, "You're now the dean of the Ivy League football coaches. You guys have established great traditions." But give me your sense of how it's going to look different when you're looking across the sidelines, against Harvard, against Columbia, against Cornell.
It's interesting you say that because I think Bob and I had that conversation the last time we got together, and it just seemed like we looked at each other and we were kind of on the younger end, and all of a sudden it was he snapped his finger, and wow, Bob is the demon. He for sure is.
And you're close, behind.
Yeah, I'm not.
And I said this to Bob. It didn't seem
I'm
that
not-
long ago to me that it was talking about these new young guys on the sidelines for Yale and for Princeton. And now you're the voices of wisdom and knowledge.
Well, I don't know about how much wisdom and knowledge from me. Bob for sure, but not from me. But no, you said it, Jack. We had legendary coaches. I mean, obviously with Buddy, Tim, and Al. I mean, Hall of Fame coaches. I mean, first ballot Hall of Fame coaches. So we've been, spoiled with, some amazing guys who've been in this league for a long time, and now we've got some turnover and change in the league at a bunch of places, and we've got some extraordinary coaches that have taken over programs, and I'll tell you, it's a great thing for the league in a lot of ways. We celebrate those who had amazing careers and led their programs, and now we're bringing in some younger guys who are going to come in and run their programs at a really high level, and I'm excited for them. I think it raises the level of football in the league, and that's one of the things that's really important. And as Bob said a little earlier, it's you look at our league, which is very different than others. I mean, coaching turnover is consistent in most leagues in the country. They're half the league's turning over, and ours it's not. So we've got some great coaches, and just excited to to be able to compete against them every Saturday.
It's funny, Coach Surace mentioned talking about the turnover in other leagues as opposed to us, and how valuable that is. I've got a question. Carl Adamek is joining us from the Hearst, Connecticut media. Hey, Carl, welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Question for Coach. Talked about the parity in the league, and when you look at like FBS schedules, there's always like an SEC team, and they play a buy-in game, and they have it's almost like a week off. You don't have that in the Ivy League, and how difficult is it, if at all, to handle that week after week after week?
Thanks for the question, Carl. Honestly, I mean, we love it. I mean, it's what you said. I mean, you got to be ready to win the game on the last play of the game each and every week in the Ivy League. And I think if you're a competitor, there's nothing you want more. It's there's no game in our schedule that you can sit there and say that the last play of the last series isn't gonna be a deciding factor. And I think that's what makes our league so so unique. And if I was a fan watching football, college football, I mean, I'd turn into Ivy League games every week because it's great competition. It's a lot of parity and evenly matched teams, and it comes down to the last play or two.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl. So last question for you, Coach. This season, we at ESPN are going to get 3 Yale games, which, again, as a Yale alum, that thrills me. We'll be at Penn and Columbia, back-to-back nights, right? Friday the 25th, November 1st, and then of course Harvard up at Harvard. From a coaching perspective, head coach, and from a recruiting perspective, and in dealing with your players, is there a value? Would you be able to say to these guys, hey, national television, and you know what? 3 times this year on the ESPN linear networks.
Sure, Jack. I mean, I think, every house that I walk into in the recruiting cycle, the conversation comes up about being able to watch your son play every weekend on ESPN. And when you're talking about the worldwide leader, and you can walk on a house and say that our league has an agreement with ESPN where, it might be on a Friday night, it might be on a Saturday afternoon, but you can watch your son play, whether, you're at every corner of the United States. It just speaks volumes for Ivy League football. And then to play on a Friday night, or, for us, play up in Cambridge against that team from the north on a Saturday, in November. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's just a great opportunity for us at Yale and for our league to be able to showcase such an amazing product that we have. So we're very fortunate to have it.
Well, everybody's looking forward certainly to this entire season here. One of the things we've been blessed with, I've talked about this before, is that, not just parity in this league, but quality parity in this league. And how many times we've come into the last week of the season and a bunch of teams still have a shot at getting a piece of that title, which is can can take years off of coach's life, but certainly for the fans, it adds years to their life. So looks like we may well be doing that again this year. So Dean Schaefer and Rye Yates, thanks guys for spending some time with us. And Coach, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, and we'll look forward to cover 3 Yale games this season. So you all, good luck to you, and you all be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jack. Always great seeing you.
That does it for us now for our conversations. We had a chance to talk with all 8 coaches, and each of them brought with them 2 of their student athletes to add to that conversation. A couple of reminders for you here that the full program available on YouTube. And if you'd like your own copy, just email JJ Klein, who's the league's football communications contact, at jj@ivyleague.com, jj@ivyleague.com. So it is certainly everybody involved looking forward to just another fantastic Ivy League football season. As I mentioned in the beginning, 6 of the games will be carried by ESPN on their linear networks. It's a great lineup of games. Everyone else is available on ESPN Plus, and a couple of others available on some regional networks. So we're all looking forward to another spectacular Ivy League football season. We want to thank you all for joining us here for the 2024 Ivy League Football Media Day. So you all be well, and we will see you again. Take care.